Greetings, everybody. It's 9 o'clock, I see. I don't think Commissioner Lagos is there quite yet. She is running a little bit late, she told me. I am calling from
We're
Washington,
about to get started.
right?
If everybody can take their seats, we're going to get started. Okay, we're ready to get started.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Has Sarah Lagos arrived? Lisa?
Commissioner Lagos is here.
Oh, great. Okay, fabulous. Then I am going to call the meeting to order at 9:01. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you for being patient here. I will call the roll. Commissioner Cahill.
Here.
Ringbarth. Commissioner Ringbarth.
Here.
Commissioner Goldberg.
Here.
Mr. Green.
Here.
Mr. Heavenridge.
Here.
Commissioner Lagos.
Here.
Mr. McKenzie.
Here.
Commissioner Poles.
Here.
Okay. Andy will not be joining us. Commissioner Elkin will not be joining us tonight. And we hope he's having a lovely time. Let's see. Announcements. Erica, do we have any announcements?
Not at this time, no.
Mm-hmm. There is one announcement that I'd like to make. I think probably most of you know that we did a screening of Free for All, the public libraries at the Santa Rosa Library. It is going to be streaming from PBS starting April 29th, 2025. And it's really if you didn't see it at the library, mark your calendars for it to be showing up on PBS. And I can send you some information about that. It's also screening in San Helena at the Cameo Cinema. So it's going to be a real movie there. And it talks about the history of libraries, and it's really quite a moving movie. But it's also interesting. I'm in Washington, as you all know, and library funding at the federal level is in serious danger, and so it's this movie is a good background from which to talk about why libraries are incredibly important. So if you don't have an opportunity to see it at the Cameo Cinema, please mark your calendars to see it on TV. Do we have any public appearances?
Yes, we do have somebody present.
Okay. And you have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Let's get up here and just gonna set this right here. That's what you see right before you there is. Well, first I should say my name is Dwayne DeWitt and I'm from Roseland. And for at least 60 years, I've been thinking we needed some nice libraries. And I remember when they built the one in Santa Rosa and then Coddingtown, I'm like, yeah, I really like libraries. So I brought this to show you. This is Roseland, the district right here. And it's north of the Bellevue district, all right? So I brought this map and I wanted you to see it because it's really kind of cool when you think about the other situations of Bellevue is here right below it, going south, right? You can see the boundaries on these things. Sorry for this poor boy graphic situation, by the way it used to go, you get it. We're going to end up with how we can save you millions of dollars. And that's because we got the California tiger salamander habitat in both Bellevue and Roseland. And did you know that on the Colgan Creek project, the city of Santa Rosa is proposing to do right now, they're going to need to spend $2.5 million for California tiger salamander mitigation. And I'm like, well, geez, maybe if you did stuff in different places. So I want to thank you for the branch we got right now on Sebastopol Road, the Roseland Library. I really like it. Sebastopol Road was my paper route as a boy, so I know that area really well. And we definitely need that stuff up there. So, you mentioned earlier that there's gonna be some problems getting financing from the federal government. We actually have some folks that might not even be interested in financing knowledge here in our areas. They may be totally against California up there. Some people tell me they think the country's being run by the Confederate States of America. The red folks, they were gray back in that day. Anyway, long story short, the California tiger salamander has actually been helpful to Roseland and Bellevue because we didn't get overrun by development due to this being there. And now it's happening finally, 30 years later. This picture's from 20 years ago. And, I just got deep into this because I was on the Santa Rosa Redevelopment Project Area Committee for Southwest Santa Rosa, and we talked about putting a library in Roseland. We were gonna do it, we thought maybe at the Southwest Community Park. They said, no, you can't do it there because there's California tiger salamander habitat, and it's gonna be very costly. So I want you folks to be very, very conscious of how much you're gonna have to spend on different things if you make decisions that aren't gonna be supported by money from the federal government. Because our county is gonna have serious economic dilemmas in the future. As a matter of fact, the city of Santa Rosa is $14 million deficit. And they're gonna have that deficit every year for the next 4 to 5 years. I just want you folks to make those decisions that'll help us put that branch up on Sebastopol Road. That bad boy's doing really nice. And I was the one that advocated for a branch in the Roseland Village Shopping Center redevelopment project area, and they promised me there'd be one there. So I'll keep fighting for that because I'm just your old paper boy. Nothing but a good time. Thank you kindly.
Thank you, Mr. DeWitt. Any other public comment?
Yes, please. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Adina Flores, and I'm the leading civil rights activist for Sonoma County. I had a chance to review your annual plan, and once again, the language I saw was upsetting because it stated that we are a community that represents diversity, equity, and inclusion. And primarily who I see seated here is Caucasian individuals, and that is not an accurate reflection of our community. And that being said, I don't support the narratives that are coming from our county's equity office to state that white people are born with privilege and their children are born with privilege and that they're inherently evil for being white. I don't agree with that. I'm somebody who's biracial in this community. I'm half Asian and half European as well. But going back to that language regarding equity, it makes me want to vomit because it's not accurate at all. We're here as we are discussing Roseland and the library, and they were annexed in 2017. We're only discussing this now because the Latino community here is outnumbering our Caucasian community, and politically, you need that voting block. Mr. Dwayne DeWitt, who just spoke from Roseland, he is an amazing advocate, as they would say, a white ally. I consider him a friend of mine. That man is incredible. I didn't know he was going to be here. I'm grateful that he's here this evening. And this paper that I have right here, I'm not going to read it because it did make me cry earlier, but Commissioner McKenzie, you actually knew my mother very well. My mother is the former finance director for this very city for over 20 years. And as the third highest paid employee, as a woman of color, she was forced out for questioning the budget. And so that's upsetting that when we refer to marginalized communities, as soon as we ask questions, we are forced out and we are not allowed in these processes. And so I see very little diversity in this room, and that's upsetting because I do think we have wonderful white people from the conservative and liberal side in this community, and I am willing to build that bridge if everybody else is. And so what I would like to see this commission achieve, since the library is the center and hub of education, is to start teaching our communities, and I'd like to pilot it through Roseland, to actually have a voice, to get involved, to understand an agenda, to understand how to exercise public comment, to understand your rights, because right now I get adults constantly all day long that don't understand these processes. So I can assure you that when our literacy rates are 50% for the state of California, our youth are clueless as well. So God bless you. Thank you for listening, and I hope you take my words into consideration.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Chair Doyle, I'd just like to introduce Cloverdale's newest city council member, Andres Marquez, who is our lab liaison and came tonight to learn more about how the commission operates.
Welcome. Would you like to say a few words?
Voy a hablar en español. Mi nombre es Concepción Domínguez. Hoy estamos aquí con mucho gusto para impulsar este proyecto de nuestra biblioteca y centro comunitario del sur de Santa Rosa, ya que va a ser ya que va a beneficiar a Roseland y a Moreland y a sus escuelas y comunidad. Hoy les pido su apoyo para nuestros niños, jóvenes. Para ellos será un gran proyecto que les va a dar mucho en información, servicios para su aprendizaje y educación. Y es muy necesario para todos, ya que tendrá espacio para niños, adultos, salones de arte, baile, y para cocinar, una cocina comunitaria y un lugar para nuestra gente, muy importante. También una estación de bomberos. Ojalá que se junte el dinero para hacer este proyecto porque va a ser muy bonito y vamos a estar felices todos. Gracias.
Gracias.
Madam Chair?
Mhm.
Could you remind the audience that this part of the agenda is for only stuff that's not on the agenda? And if you want to speak on Roseland, it's farther down on the agenda.
Thank you, Commissioner Cahill. The item on the agenda is the Roseland Library Design presentation. So I think that general comments about Roseland are acceptable in public comment. Anybody else for public comment? But noting Commissioner Cahill's note. Nobody else?
We have another comment.
Okay.
Come on.
Chair Doyle, we do have an item on the agenda that is an action item that is not a presentation. Give me a moment.
9.2.
9.2,
Right, the construction project.
the construction project. So wouldn't these comments regarding the Roseland Regional Library be voiced at the time of this item?
I think either way. Are there additional comments that are specifically for Roseland that we haven't heard yet?
I believe there are quite a few. There's 3 hands, maybe 5, 6 hands, 7 hands for Roseland and
Then-
the person who just spoke.
Thank you. Then we will ask the members of the public, if you have something to say about Roseland, about the design presentation, about the construction project, you'll have to wait for a little bit. If people have something to say that doesn't have to do with Roseland, and thank you, Commissioner Cahill, for bringing it up. I can't see the audience from here. They can come up and make their public comments. So the way that we're going to order the agenda, as you see, there's a presentation. The Roseland Regional Library Design presentation is 5.1. Then we're going to bring 9.2 up after that so we can have a full discussion about that. So after the presentation, we can take public comment and then the commission will discuss 9.2.
Excuse me, is your public comment about Roseland or something else?
Services in our underserved communities and my.
Please come up.
Thank you, members of the community and commission. I work as a substitute teacher through the Sonoma County Office of Education. I generally try to bring my own books or art supplies, and I try to make an effort to go to a library and bring materials to introduce the concept of library to the various schools that I work at. Sometimes this is a very new concept, and I want to just emphasize that we all have literacy habits. We read captions, we read billboards, we recognize signage. But the habits of attending a library are new to many of us. They are new to many of us in the communities that keep the county of Sonoma up and running. For the people that are the economic engine in so many ways, the concept of attending a library has been a relatively new one. And I want to congratulate all of us on our efforts to uphold these institutions. But I just want to remind, or rather, bring my perspective. My daughter is a science teacher in Santa Rosa City Schools, but she is also a product of the Sonoma County library system. She has educated hundreds of students in Santa Rosa City Schools in the very short time that she has been a science teacher. And where did we go throughout her elementary, middle, and high school years? For recreation, for a little quiet time for mommy, for a little R&R for mommy, the libraries. And we did not have one close to the home where we were in. Now we do. And I will refrain from naming that library because I said I would give my general comments about the importance of cultivating library going in communities. So I would say anything that supports that, such as the reading vans, the literacy, roaming literacy libraries. I'm not sure what the status of that is. Collaborations, book fairs within schools is all vibrant, and it's all going to serve the needs of students and families. And these are students that are going to be serving you in the future. They will be taking your medical history. They might be educating your children or grandchildren. The more we serve our population, the better we can address the primary function of public education, which is to promote a healthy democracy. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional public comments? And remember, you have 3 minutes.
There's one more comment.
Okay.
Thank you. I had to rush to get here. I'm on the Board of Community Services for the city of Santa Rosa. When I got to the meeting, they canceled it. So I said, oh, this one's on, so I got to go down here. I'm working very diligently on the library. I live on Fern Avenue, and I'm very
Just-
opposed to the location. I'm sorry.
Just interrupt you. Is this going to be about Roseland?
Yes.
Okay, then you are going to have to wait until we talk about Roseland.
Okay, to the Roseland Library.
That's right.
Okay, no problem.
See, that's great.
That's my preference.
Any other public comment that doesn't involve Roseland?
No.
Okay. Thank you all very much for your passion and we will continue with the let's see. Hang on, all right. We do really appreciate your passion about the library. Our next item is a resolution. Next week is National Library Week, and we specifically want to honor our library workers. So we have a resolution with that in mind. Do I have a volunteer to read the resolution?
I can read it.
Thank you very much, Ms.
Just need to find it. Give me a half second here. Thank you. Paper is always better. Resolution, National Library Week, National Library Workers' Day. Whereas Sonoma County Library creates community through discovery, culture, and connection. And whereas Sonoma County Library welcomes all to grow and thrive in a community where equal access to knowledge creates understanding and limitless potential with innovative library program, robust collections, and responsive services through equitable access to information, technology, and connectivity, and opportunities to contribute, interact, and participate. And whereas Sonoma County Library offers an opportunity to connect with others, develop new skills, and pursue your passions, whoever you are, wherever you are. And whereas libraries provide free and equitable access to books, digital tools, and innovative programming, ensuring that all individuals, regardless of background, have the support they need to learn, connect, and thrive. And whereas libraries represent a microcosm of society and library workers play a crucial and unique role in the communities that they serve by providing an inclusive environment where all are treated with respect and dignity. And whereas Sonoma County Library promotes a sense of local connection, advancing understanding, civic engagement, and shared community goals. And whereas Sonoma County Library empowers job seekers, entrepreneurs, and lifelong learners by providing access to resources, training, and opportunities. And whereas Sonoma County Library preserves our collective heritage and knowledge, safeguarding both physical and digital resources for present and future generations. And whereas the theme for National Library Week 2025 is Drawn to the Library, which celebrates the power of creativity and storytelling in all forms. And whereas Sonoma County workers and supporters join library advocates across the nation to celebrate National Library Week and National Library Workers' Day, therefore be it resolved that the Sonoma County Library Commission celebrates National Library Week from April 6th through 12th, 2025, and National Library Workers' Day on April 8th, 2025. The library encourages all to take advantage of the rich variety of library resources available and to thank library workers for their exceptional contributions to our lives.
Thanks very much. Do we have any public comment on the resolution?
I move that we adopt it.
No, so no public comment? Okay.
Second.
Commissioner Pohl, was that you? I can't see on my.
It was Commissioner Goldberg who moved and Commissioner Cahill who seconded.
Oh, fabulous. Okay, thank you. Then we're going to take the roll unless there, do we have any commission comments? We should have asked for those first.
And no public comment.
No public comment, correct. Commission, any commission comments?
No commission comments.
All right. Commissioner Cahill,
Yes.
Commissioner Ringbarth,
Yes.
Commissioner Goldberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Green,
Yes.
Commissioner Heavenridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Lagos,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Commissioner Pohl,
Yes.
and I will make it unanimous. I'm sure Andy would say so, were he here. That's terrific. And truly, we wish to thank the staff who was in the room and the staff who was not in the room, all the staff who make our libraries possible. Obviously, we're here to serve and support you as well. Okay, so our next item, we're moving into presentations, and 5.1 is the Roseland Regional Library Design Presentation. I know we've all been waiting for it.
Good evening. I want to introduce Abe Jason. He is a principal architect with Jason Architects in San Francisco, but he is also local, grew up in Tamales Bay. So he is very well acquainted with Sonoma County. And I'm very excited for him to present the preliminary designs for the Roseland Regional Library. I want to let you all know that we are actively meeting regularly with Abe and the Swinnerton team and Kitchell. So every other week we have a meeting with the architect to provide feedback. We expect the first phase, 40% of the design will be complete May 9th, and then 75% midsummer, and by the end of summer, the design will be complete. So I want to just give you a caveat that what you are seeing is preliminary. Some things may change as a result of feedback that we receive from the community, as well as further discussions with the architects. But this is a really exciting phase, in the Roseland project, and I'm really excited to bring Abe up here. I also want to let you know if you have any questions about the funding and the costs, please save that for my agenda item. Our architect is here to answer design questions. Please come up here, Abe. Thank you.
Adjust and then pointer.
Use this for the pointer and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, it's just stronger.
All right.
Stronger.
That's about it. Thank you, Erica. Commissioners, members of the public, library staff, thank you so much for your time tonight. I'm really excited to be talking about this project. It's an honor to work on a project like this, and it's also a big responsibility. We want to get this right for your community. My name is Abe Jason. I'm principal of Jason Architecture. We're an architecture firm that works on libraries as one of our specialties. So projects like this are very dear to my heart and my team's heart. We're part of a great team. We have Swinnerton General Contractors on the team. And then, of course, the city of Santa Rosa is a great partner, as well as Kitchell, who are managing the process. And then, of course, the library. So gonna sort of step in from a high level here. This is the site plan of the Hearn Library project. So as some of you may be familiar with, there are two primary elements to this project. There is a new fire station at the corner of Hearn and Dutton. That's number 2 on the site plan above. And then what we're here to talk about tonight, which is the new library, that's number 1. One thing I'll note just for everyone's orientation, north is to the left, near where the fire station is. So the project involves an extension of Dutton Avenue, which will bring people to the middle of the site. You can see a new parking lot in between the fire station and the library. The entrance to the library is number 7. That's off the parking lot to the north of the library. And then kind of swinging around the library, we have a children's garden on the west side of the library. And then on the south side, we have a couple wonderful elements, all kind of supporting public programming. Outside the library, there's a large community lawn. There's what we call the front porch. It's really more the rear porch of the library. We have a reading garden and a social stair. So there's some really great outdoor spaces that really extend the kind of footprint of the library into this kind of wonderful climate we have here in the North Bay. Also note that the space on the sort of far right on the south side of the site is currently kind of master planned for a future community center. However, that is not part of this project at this time. So as I'm kind of move forward here into the floor plan, I'm going to note that the plan is going to rotate 90 degrees so it fits on the page and everyone can see it well. One thing I'll sort of leave you with on this sort of image here is that we wanted to think about how the building sits really gracefully into kind of native habitat, and wanted to feel like it's a part of its natural setting in a very comfortable manner. And I think you'll see that in some of the additional visualizations. So this is the floor plan. Again, I want to orient everyone to the floor plan. North is now up on the page. So the parking lot would be at the top of the page here. The entry you can see in the green arrow on the top of the page, and that brings you into the marketplace. So this is sort of the primary kind of introduction to the library space. It's a very active space. It's a very flexible space. It's highly reprogrammable. It's a space for new books. It's a space for events, and it sort of connects you to the kind of various uses of the library. One of the great things about this design is when you enter this library, you're going to be able to actually see straight through to the community lawn and the porch on the south side of the library. So that's a great visual connection to the outdoors. From this location, you will also be able to return books, both after hours at the outside book drop and inside at the interior book drop. To the right, there's a large community gathering space, public restrooms, and then a makerspace all immediately off the marketplace. The makerspace is in yellow. The large community room is in red or orange. As you kind of walk into the library, you walk into what we think of as the grand reading room. We think that's really important for any library, the kind of sense of civic grandeur and sort of a space that really kind of has a scale and quality kind of appropriate of a civic space. And that really connects two spaces, the children's space, which is in blue, and then the adult collections, which is in green. So this is kind of one long, very flexible, adaptable, large, grand library reading room with tall ceilings and the ability for very kind of flexible furnishings. At the end of the sort of grand reading room, adjacent to the adult collections, is the teen area. That's in the light green. And so kind of accessible off this kind of large kind of grand reading room, you'll have the maker space, 3 small group study rooms, which you can see is number 12, also in orange, the teen room, the children's room. There's also a family restroom off the children's room. And then something that you'll see in some of the visualizations, we have this really fun element, which is this tower element off the children's room. It's kind of an imagination room as we're kind of conceiving it. Additionally, in brown, you have the staff area. And within that staff area, we have a restroom for the staff, a break room, open office, work plan, and a sorting room. Also want to note that we have an after hours boundary in this library, which makes for sort of extended functionality. You can see that in the dashed line here. That allows for the library to close down a majority of the library by kind of closing a roll down gate, but still allow the marketplace, the community meeting room, and the maker place all be accessible after hours. So it's almost like a miniature community center within the library that can really extend the functionality into kind of an extended time frame. I want to talk a little bit about the program of the library. So I'm sure most of you are familiar with sort of the process that led to this point. We were part of a design build competition for this project, and there was a criteria program established in that that brief that we received, and that was a 15,000 square foot criteria program. And what you can see here, we're comparing 3 different programs. The criteria program, which was 15,000 square feet, the proposal program, which was 10,315 square feet, and then in the middle, the expanded program, 12,475 square feet. I'm going to make a note about each of these to give you some context before I go through the numbers. So again, the criteria program is what was provided to all teams in this design build competition. The proposal program was the proposed program that our team, our design build team, provided. Now, I'll note that it is less than the 15,000 square foot program. I'll also note that the other 2 design build teams proposed programs very similar to the scale. So it speaks to the sort of the feasibility of this 10,315 square feet. In the middle is what we're going to be discussing about today and the designs that we're sharing with you today, which is the 12,475 square foot program. So it's an expansion of the proposal program. So kind of going from the top to bottom, we're going not through each individual space, but through the kind of primary programmatic categories. The entry marketplace, you can see was about 2,300 square feet in the criteria program. And, you know, we've sort of been working on right sizing that. We've got it about 2,000 square feet in the expanded program. Meeting rooms, we had about 1,700 square feet in the criteria program. We've got about 1,300 square feet in the expanded program. The adult area, we've actually been able to really expand, and that's a much more flexible space. So it's a great space to provide expansion in because it provides kind of multiple abilities to change use over time. It was about 1,000 square feet in the criteria program. It's actually up to almost 2,400 square feet. The teen area in the criteria program was 679 square feet. In the proposal program, we were only able to get about 300 square feet. We're now back up to the criteria program at 645. Children's area was 2,800 square feet. We're very close to that at 2,100 square feet. Flexible classrooms was about 1,000 square feet. We are at about 650. And then staff area was about 1,900 square feet. We're at about 1,700 square feet. Lastly, support spaces, that's bathrooms, storage, et cetera. We had about 1,100 square feet. We have about 800 square feet. So the thing I really want to point out here is the net to gross ratio. So we have a net assignable square footage in each of these programs, respectively, of 9,600 square feet, 11,600, and 12,700 or 800 square feet. And you can see that our expanded program compared to the criteria program has a net to gross ratio of 93% compared to an 85% net to gross ratio. So we've designed a much more efficient building. What that really means is more programmable space for the community. So despite the fact that we are not meeting that 15,000 criteria, we are sort of actually approaching it in terms of programmatic useful space and really kind of increasing on the proposal program at 10,300 square feet. So I'm happy to answer more questions about sort of the programmatic square footage and numbers as we kind of move into the question and answer phase of the presentation. Now, I just want to chat a little bit about how this building is going to look and feel. The first view is kind of really how this building is going to feel upon approach as you're coming down Dutton off Hearn. In thinking about this building, we wanted to sort of carry a respect for the history and the past of this community, sort of the agricultural traditions of the area, but also look towards the future and think about how we blend those two. So we did take inspiration from agricultural forms, the idea of sort of agricultural buildings, silo towers next to them, but sort of developing that in a way that is a more contemporary approach to thinking about it. And the idea that there's this sort of playful tower at the corner of the building that draws you into the site. In fact, you're even going to be able to see this from Hearn Avenue. It'll be a kind of signage element that draws people back and sort of gives a cue that there's this wonderful civic building kind of that to draw you down Dutton. Approaching the building from the parking lot, so this is kind of the experience you'd have as a pedestrian. One of the things you can see right away is how welcoming it is. It draws you in. I love how the building actually allows you this vision straight through all the way to the other side to the green space and the community lawn and the porch on the other side. So you can see it really kind of funnels your view and draws you in and kind of welcomes you into the library. Kind of wrapping around the building, this is a view from the children's garden. And you can see sort of a really open, flexible space. It's also informal. We like the ability for sort of comfortable natural space for children. We have this large smoothed out log that'll be weathered and almost like a sort of natural structure for the children to play and kind of have imaginative games on. And then native gardens surrounding the space, which is sort of a teaching opportunity about kind of the sort of wonderful environment and ecology of the region. Kind of wrapping around the building, you can really see kind of the plethora of wonderful outdoor spaces and the expanded programmatic capacity that these outdoor spaces provide. There's several thousand square feet of kind of outdoor programmable area. Those include the children's garden on the left. We have a contemplative reading garden on the right. And then kind of straight ahead in this view, you can see the porch. Great spot with shade to hang out on kind of a sunny day. And then this really wide and flexible community lawn. Great spot for big events on kind of a nice warm evening. Next view is looking across that community lawn. And what I want to emphasize here, this is actually kind of similar to the view you might have from the Future Community Center. I want to emphasize the sustainability of this building. So you can see solar panels running along the roof in this location. This building is sort of oriented in the east-west direction. It's an optimal direction for wonderful daylight and also energy use. So this is going to be sort of a modern, high-performance, highly sustainable library, which sort of is an important value for your community, but also us as an architectural and construction team. Now we're going to step inside. So this first view is in what we call the grand reading room. And we really believe that libraries are aspirational places, and we want people to kind of physically and metaphorically kind of be uplifted when they enter these spaces. And so we create a space that has that civic volume. This is looking towards the teens room on one end of the space, and you can see the main entry to the left. The other thing I'll note here is because of that orientation to the south and to the north, we have really balanced daylight. We have warm daylight coming from these kind of ample windows facing south, but we also have soft and indirect daylight coming from the clerestory in the north. It creates a really balanced daylight throughout the entire day, which really makes for a wonderful environment to kind of sit and read a book. Next view is looking towards the children's area. And I think one of the things you can see here is how kind of highly programmable and flexible this space is. It's one thing we think a lot about when designing libraries is how do we kind of prepare for the future? And one of the key ways to do that is to provide spaces that can be reconfigured time and time again. And you can really see how this kind of grand room, will be adaptable through the decades. You can see the space kind of draws you down to this pop of color down at the end of the children's area. And then again, the really kind of wonderful connection through the tall windows facing the community porch on the left. This view is sort of a fun little cut through the building. It's called a section. And this is actually through the what we call the imagination room. It's the tower on the corner of the building. So that tower is this sort of wonderful element that serves as signage to draw you into the building, but it's also this sort of playful, imaginative space for children. And we're still working with the library and the community on this, but we envision this as a wonderful opportunity for some public art, something colorful, something vibrant, something bold, potentially a mobile, some cool lighting elements. And we just, envision a couple children lying on their backs and staring up and creating stories in their head in that space. So the last view I'm going to share with you kind of speaks to the kind of intangible element of libraries. Libraries are not just buildings. They are a kind of a concept. They're an idea. They're about knowledge. They're about culture. They're about ideas, and they're about community. And we want to create a building that feels warm, it feels welcoming, it feels uplifting, and it feels aspirational, and is a source of pride for the community. And we think this kind of image captures that feeling of kind of walking up with a sense of joy for this building. The idea of these kind of lights twinkling in the children's tower, pops of colors. You can kind of see children's faces inside, and it really draws you into kind of a wonderful community experience. So with that, I'd like to open it up for questions. Commissioner Goldberg.
Hi, thanks for that.
Wait. We're going to have to ask for public comment first. And this
Sorry.
That's right. So public comment, but this is about the design, and you have 3 minutes. Do we have any public comment? No public comment?
I just have a question on maintenance of that tower. It looks like you got windows that are 40 feet up, and how are they going to be maintained?
Any other public comment?
Hi, my name's Pamela Van Helsema, and I just wanted to, first of all, say that I really love the design. I think it's beautiful and it's flexible, and it's really important in my work. I do work with libraries across the country, and having that kind of flexible space is what gives you assurances that this library is going to be good for generations to come. And I really like it that it is a bigger size than that first design that I saw. Because I like that there's those community rooms that can be closed, and there's that big space that can be that aspiration big reading room. To have both, I think, is really important for the library to function and have a lot of cool programs. So thank you for the very good design.
Thanks very much. Additional public comment?
Okay, my name's Guido Bocleone, native Petaluma, but I live in Santa Rosa now. And I'm on many committees and Board of Community Services for the city of Santa Rosa at present. And I would like to, the plan sounds great. The only thing that I'm opposed to is its location. I live on Hearn Avenue at the end of Stony Point, okay? And the traffic is totally absurd from 1 o'clock till 5 o'clock. It's backed up past where that's going to be is going to be a terrible intersection. And this children's and the schools are all up this end of the west end of Hearn Avenue is where almost all the schools are located. So when the kids get out of school at 3 o'clock or so and they get on their bikes and they run down to the library to do a report, get some information, they're going to have to be going through all this traffic. Cars are going to want to be turning into their driveways, and here comes a kid on a bicycle, and we're going to have problems. I'm telling you, it's just, I've seen it so many times. It's a bad location. I went and spoke to the superintendent of Bellevue School District. He gave me a nice letter here that says he'd be more than willing to work a program with the Roseland area for this 3 acres that's located on the corner of Hearn Avenue and Dutton Meadow, right next to a beautiful school, right next to our Southwest Community Park, which is always packed with kids playing and so on. So I'm looking at it that I go down there and I tell my kid, go outside and play. I want to go inside because I want to take this course on learning how to speak Spanish, you know, because we have so many in it. I speak Italian, so fortunately it's close. But this is what I'd like to present to the board, this letter from the superintendent, Michael Killenson, and they're more than willing to help work with us on 3 acres. Can I get how many acres that project is? Just for the school, they mean for the library?
Sure.
So I'm looking at, of course, picking up your plan and just bringing it over and setting it down here. I've talked to probably 1,000 people. I go to that park and I've talked to just hundreds and hundreds of people, and they all think, yeah, that would be great. The parents can go in and do whatever they need to do at the library. The kids can go out and play in the park. You know, it's all ties in as a beautiful facility for everything. And like I say, the schools are all, I've got them right in here in my book where the schools are. You can see it comes right down to that park. And to go down to where the park is proposed for, you got to go down through all that traffic, cars and so on. It's just, I just say that that's the only problem that I see with it is. But anyway, I just wanted to present that as a suggestion.
Thank you, sir.
Taking the other location. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And again, we're still taking public comments on the design, not comments on the construction project itself. So do we have any additional public comments?
We do.
Good evening. I don't live in Roseland now, but I did live on Kenton Court in Roseland, just down the street from this for about a decade. And one of the concerns I have about that neighborhood is that
Sir, I'm going to stop you. If you're going to be talking about the neighborhood, you're going to have to wait. This is about the design.
I understand this is about design.
Okay.
I'm giving some context. Please let me finish. That neighborhood has not been represented enough, and I really hope that the design has enough space for community rooms where the community can make presentations and attend presentations. And the only thing I'm concerned about in terms of design is it large enough? But I love the thought and care that's gone into it. And this was a beautiful presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comments?
Happy to answer any questions the commissioners have.
And Commissioner Green, I'm going to hand it over to you because I won't be able to see the commissioner's hands.
Okay, Commissioner Goldberg.
Thanks for that. I like the presentation a lot. I think it'll be a great library. Couple questions. One, in the meeting room itself, not expanded and opened up, but just the room as it is now, I think it's over that corner.
I'll
How many-
go back to the plan
Yeah.
here so we can talk to that. So give me 1 second here.
There we go, the number 5.
Mhm.
How many people would that seat for presentations?
It sort of depends on how you seat it.
Uh-huh.
For tables and chairs. And it's funny, it actually matters if it's square tables or round tables, but you're probably talking kind of 30-ish people, tables and chairs. Rows of people, you could kind of get potentially a little bit more if they're all facing the kind of, you just
Like that?
like this, you could
Okay.
get more.
Meaning 40, maybe
Yeah, probably in
50?
the range of about 40.
Okay.
And then for like a standing room only event, you could sort of get upwards of 60, 70 people. It might get a little uncomfortable at that point, but it depends on the type of event, the density that that sort of event is comfortable with. So there's a little bit of just a personal space for the standing room only kind of question.
Okay, is it okay if I ask a couple of my questions right now? Okay, and then I'll, about the outdoor space,
Yeah.
I have 2 questions. One, what about the security of it in terms of safety and in terms of it not becoming just an overnight place? A lot of people need housing and don't have it. So 2 things on the outside. One, the security of it, and one, maintenance, and who maintains it, and how does that all work?
So I'm actually going to answer the security question. We do have security guards at our locations, at our libraries in Santa Rosa. And we also have an overnight patrol that goes to all of our locations in Santa Rosa and just make sure that, that people are not, sleeping overnight. So the security question will be dealt with in the same way that we do it with our other libraries. And in terms of the landscaping, that's something that we will have to work out with the city when we do the lease. So some of our libraries, we are responsible for landscape maintenance. Other libraries, the cities are responsible. In Rohnert Park, the city is responsible, but we have to pay for it. So it's really dependent. Every one of our partners has a different arrangement. So that's something that we will have to negotiate.
Okay, and it might be finished. Curiosity about the design. What is the material, that main material for the facade, kind of like stripes?
Yeah, it's going to be a corrugated metal panel.
Oh, okay.
And it'll be pre-finished in a sort of a very durable manner appropriate for a public building. And it's sort of a nice material in that it is very robust. It'll last for decades, and it sort of gives it a little bit of texture too.
Thanks.
Commissioner McKenzie?
Thank you for the presentation. It's the first time I've actually gotten some details about it. I appreciate it. Couple of questions. I had the same concerns that Eve did about the outdoor maintenance of the things. That's a big part of this, the big common space. And then if you look at the pictures, all the gardens and such, just looking at the Rohnert Park, the small amount of landscaping we have around that, I mean, it just doesn't get maintained. It doesn't look good. I mean, this is going to be a significant commitment for somebody to maintain it. So that's a little bit of a concern to me. I was wondering about whether the windows are on the west, because I wasn't sure about all the orientation that you put us through, but I'm concerned about windows being on the west. It's so hot, in the summer. And
Yeah, we're very careful about window placement. So is the pointer still here? Oh, there it is, right next to me. So I'm gonna point now. So you can see this is east. Bottom of the page is
Okay.
west. So it's long in the east-west direction, which is sort of the appropriate orientation for good sustainable practices.
okay,
There are very few windows on the east and the west. We have tall floor-to-ceiling southern-facing windows, but they are shaded by a canopy. And then we have a northern clerestory. So we've been very thoughtful to solar and daylighting orientation.
what kind of canopy?
It's a trellis canopy, which
The
you can
legs.
see
like living things or?
Oh, no, no living things. You can see it in this image here. So it's kind of what covers the porch element.
Okay. Okay, that's why it's concerned. I just a comment about the open space. I mean, I had the same question you did about how big that community space was, because they get used so much, and I'm kind of surprised, I guess, only 30 people. That's not, is that like about this kind of space? It sounds like it's not very large.
It's a little bigger than this, but yeah, I mean, with tables and chairs,
Yeah.
with ADA clearances, yeah, again, 30 to 35 is probably inappropriate. You know, could you pack more people in there? Technically, yes. But, you know, with clearances around as you're supposed to maintain, I would say 30 to 35 people.
So when that is shuttered off with the doors and stuff like that, how, do you have projections for how many people could be in the space then?
Do you mean the after hours boundary? Sorry, just to
No,
clarify.
what I thought you said was you could hold some sliding doors after hours and, yeah, and then you can have more people in there.
So this will have a roll down gate right here, and it allows this trio of spaces to be basically a small after hours community center where you have the community meeting room, the marketplace, and the maker space. The marketplace on its own can serve as kind of a gathering space. The idea is flexible furnishings there, and you can see it's almost the same size as the community room. And then, of course, you have access to the restrooms off these spaces. And then it was important in talking through with the library during the proposal phase that the maker space be accessible during after hours as well. So you have this really great trio of programmatic spaces.
So it's kind of two things. That could be an after hours, smaller version of the library, but also you could have a larger program there, but you'd be combining the number 5 and number 3 and add more seating and things like that.
I don't think that would work for like a presentation as you're
Okay.
describing, because they are separate rooms. So I think if you're, you know, describing sort of doubling the size of the
Yeah.
community room, that's actually not sort of really functional as it's currently laid out. And I can understand why that would be a desire. These spaces are always in high demand.
Right. So really, that's kind of a limitation on the size of programming that you could have over there. So that meeting room. My last comment would be, I visited several newly constructed libraries, including Pleasant Hill, not that long ago. And some of the big open space, which sounds like it's really neat, it feels kind of like too open or something. You kind of lose that cozy feel. And I guess that would be my concern about that kind of great big, you know, number 3 and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it sounds like a good idea, it probably feels good, but does it really get used, or does it feel kind of like, you know, you want to sit, you know, closer to, you know, bookshelves or something like that? I mean, it's kind of a, you know, it can be an uncomfortable feeling.
So I worked in libraries where we used the reading room as, you know, when we did big children's, you know, events for summer reading club or big author events. And one of the things you find is that, you know, meeting rooms, that people are often, you know, reluctant to go into a meeting room because they feel trapped, or they feel like if they need to leave, then they will be, everybody will see them leaving. So we actually found that more people attended events when we had them in the reading room, because it just created an opportunity for people to enter more casually and leave more casually and not have to worry about, you know, being seen walking out. And so this is one of the reasons why we really like this design, because we do have the opportunity to expand programming into the reading room if we want to do bigger events and have a larger group of people.
I appreciate the follow-up comment. I was just talking about, in a general sense, having that great big open space. There's not much going on in that middle thing, other than it feels good to kind of walk through. But is that going to be used for programming? Because I didn't think that.
Yeah. That's the intent. I think it will be up to the staff of the Roseland Library to decide how they want to use the programming, the space.
I'll also add to that, because I kind of understand your question about kind of comfort of scale of space, right? And so we actually are thoughtful to kind of creating spaces that scale down. So it's important to have a grand civic space in the library. but it is important to have kind of more comfortable, smaller spaces. And you really do have that with these 3 group study rooms. So these are rooms that will be great spaces for 2 to 4 people. There's 3 of them, they're highly flexible. The imagination room, even though it's very tall, it's smaller in scale, it's more intimate in scale. That's going to be a great space for kids. And then we also think really carefully about how we lay out stacks within a space to create kind of subdivided, more comfortable zones within the space. So you can see that the kind of stacks run along here, and then they kind of create kind of smaller spaces around the edge. So stacks actually kind of define rooms in ways that walls sometimes do too.
Commissioner Cahill?
Yes, with regard to the constraint of opening up the children's area and the entry, I noticed there's this little vertical and then a horizontal wall which looks like 2 chairs in it. How far would the project fall if you remove that so as to open up the space more generally?
I'm not sure I'm quite understanding where you're referring.
Okay.
Show and tell.
Right here?
Yes, that thing.
It's certainly an interesting idea. We could look at relocating the drinking fountains and then maybe kind of doing a wall here that could open.
Yes.
So that's certainly worth some consideration. That's
Great,
a
thanks.
good observation.
Commissioner Pauls?
Well, Commissioner Cahill stole my idea. That's why I was just, yeah, I was gonna suggest the same thing is sort of having that be a wall that obviously can be closed, so room number 5 and 3 can be used separately,
Yeah.
but that somehow there's an opening and flow, because I have all the same concerns that is just too small of
Got it.
a
Yeah.
meeting room.
It's good to know that sort of you're looking for expanded functionality in that community space, and some flexibility would make a big difference.
Commissioner Ingbarth?
During your presentation, which was a good presentation, I think it's a good design. You mentioned sustainability. I'm wondering what standards you're following as far as sustainable design.
Yeah, so the project will be designed to Cal Green, which is the sort of the mandated standard for a public building. And at this point, Cal Green is actually pretty strong standard. It's in some ways, you're probably familiar with LEED. I don't know if that's a acronym you're familiar with, LEED. In some ways, Cal Green is sort of stepped past the basic level of LEED in many ways, and made LEED silver kind of obsolete in California. So it will be designed to that standard. But on top of that, we are sort of designing very thoughtfully, and this is true of our approach to designing buildings in general, with sort of how we lay out the building. Good sustainability comes from thoughtful orientation to the sun, thoughtful orientation of windows, good envelope. So we take those principles throughout this entire building. So this will be a very sustainable project, energy efficient, and kind of thoughtful towards requirements for heating and cooling. And then beyond that, sort of we're designing it to be a very durable building. This is a public building. It needs to stand the test of time. And that's a part of sustainability too, is designing buildings that don't deteriorate over time. We need materials that last in a building that lasts.
I'm also wondering whether with those design standards that you've just reviewed, have you reviewed or worked with the standards that the ALA has developed as far as sustainable libraries?
I acknowledge that the American Library Association has
Right.
their sort of own sustainability guidelines.
Yeah, they have a set that they developed with the Sustainable Library Initiative that they published last year.
Well, I imagine the library staff could share those with us, and we could kind of compare and just sort of see what kind of benchmarks we are meeting anyway, and how it compares. I will acknowledge I can't speak off the cuff on
Yeah,
that.
they've done a lot of work in the areas.
Commissioner Legas, and then Commissioner Heavenridge, and then me.
What's the parking lot capacity?
I acknowledge I don't have that off the top of my head, but I'll give you a quick take here. We got. So like, I don't know, I think it's about 35. And then we've got expansion capability. So we did sort of prepare for a kind of a future rec center here. There's space for parking here, but then you can see actually around the perimeter here, there's additional parking that sort of we have spaces kind of dedicated for expansion. So we are designing the parking lot to have expandable capacity.
Commissioner Heavenridge?
Yes, since we're having more earthquakes, I was interested in your earthquaking of the library, and is that may be part of California Green, I don't know, but I know LEED, they had some earthquaking part of it. So I wondered how you're designing this to be earthquake proof.
Yeah, so Cal Green isn't the section of the California Code that deals with earthquakes. There's another section. This will be designed to the most current and stringent standards of the California Code in regarding seismic safety. Essentially, this building will sort of be designed in such a manner that it has a stiffness and safety that this will be a very safe building within a substantial earthquake. And that's actually a requirement for any building in California. So we are not designing it at a sort of higher level than that. That would only be typically warranted usually if you're within a sort of very close duration of a known fault line. So, you know, if you were within a quarter mile of the San Andreas Fault or the Hayward Fault, then there's another tier of standards that kicks in. That is not the case in this location.
I have a question. When I saw this plan, I was very excited and I texted my sister because she'll be only 9 minutes away from this wonderful library. So it's pretty inspiring. My question is, I didn't see shade included in the children's garden where you have shade for the porch area. So it looks like it might be pretty warm out there.
Yeah, we're still working with our landscape team. It is ringed in trees. But I think that's a suggestion and it's something we're talking a little about. Maybe there's sort of a better placement of trees around it. Maybe there's a tree in the children's garden. So I think that's sort of an appropriate observation and something that we are currently having a conversation about.
Thank you. Commissioner McKenzie?
Yeah, yeah. Sarah brought up an interesting. Something I hadn't thought about, which is parking, which is always a huge issue. So if there's like 35 parking spots there, could you show us again the around the edge parts where you could possibly park? And is that from the opening day, or is that what you were talking about as additional capacity some other time?
So you have here's the front door to the library, right? We have parking on either side. The ADA parking will be located here. Parking here, and then you have parking between trees, parking between trees. And then this area around the perimeter, you can see those sort of white dashed lines. That will not be paved as part of this project, but should the city want to expand the parking capacity, we've left room for it in that location. So we are planning for future parking. It will not be included as part of this project.
So you've got, staff have to park, and then how many other spots that leaves for the public when you have any size of program? It doesn't sound sufficient to me. What about street parking and the gentleman that pointed out how busy that street is? Can you park on that street, do you know?
I don't believe there's parking on the street. So it's a good question. We're meeting the sort of the planning code requirements for parking, but we can have a discussion with the overall team and the library about parking in general.
It's just City of Santa Rosa's parking code, requirements, and that's based on what, the square footage or what?
Yes, correct.
I think that's quite a concerning issue.
Commissioner Pauls?
I'm continuing on how people are going to get there and just looking at public transportation. So we've got bike paths that potentially are coming into here. So that's one thing to think about. I must admit to not knowing it. Bus systems that are coming in, will there be a place for a bus stop? How's the smart train coming in? It'd be interesting to just kind of look at that infrastructure. How are we going to allow some of that not be about private cars parking? And how's that relationship going to help, and how? I know it might be out of the scope of this, but I think we as commissioners should think about how those pieces are going to intersect And if we do, a bus stop needs to be planned if we're gonna do that, like, I mean, that kind of thing, so maybe that's.
I believe that the city is looking at public transportation for this location. You also all know that the Hearn Avenue overpass is being, redone to, to ease traffic problems in this area.
Commissioner Cahill.
I have a question, possible solution for the parking. This part of Dutton dead ends, okay? My guess is that the public is gonna relax to the logic of the situation. They're gonna park there along the edges. I think this is fine. And maybe that gives us an extra 20 or 30 spaces. Just thinking about it.
I would have to defer to the city on that one.
Do you know that one of the reasons why the road is as wide as it is and as long as it is has to do with the fire trucks and making sure that the fire trucks can turn around? So, but yeah, we'll have to talk to the city about that possibility.
I can just see cars being hauled away, even though there's plenty of space anyway.
Commissioner Engbarth, you have another question?
While we're talking about parking and people getting in and out, wondering where would bicycles be placed in the facility, and also people walking into the library from the areas around her. How is that going to be designed into the planning?
Well, we will absolutely have bike parking in front of the library. And then in addition, and this is a citywide project that I can't speak to in great detail, but there is a pedestrian path and bike path running on the eastern side of the property. And that can be seen running along here. And they have sort of a larger master plan about how that connects through. So that's, again, not something I can speak to in great detail. That's part of a city plan.
Any other questions from commissioners? Commissioner Goldberg.
Sorry, I'm not quite done with size of the meeting room. I wanted to know, Erica, the meeting room, when it's not opened up to the marketplace, I'm just trying to picture it, is it going to be around the size of the Sonoma Valley meeting room or the Rincon Valley meeting room? What are we talking about?
So it's around 800 square feet. It will be bigger than Sonoma Valley. It's slightly smaller. I think Rincon Valley is about 1,000 square feet. Cloverdale is actually 800 square feet. So if you've been to the Cloverdale Library, that's going to be the size of the meeting room.
How big is this?
Dave?
This looks comparable to the Cloverdale meeting room.
I think this room is probably a little narrower than this proposal, but a little bit longer. So as shown, what you're seeing is probably a little bit wider and a little bit shorter, a little bit, but comparable in size.
And then my last question, hopefully, is I didn't even think about the parking until it was brought up, but two questions. One, the unpaved area that may become parking someday, just because it's not official parking spaces, will it be actually unpaved area where people could park? Because man, does that have to get solved without really having street parking?
We can talk about that with the team.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
I've got a couple of questions. So thank you very much. Great presentation and great questions also. As you know, this is we're concerned about fire here. And since we're going to be close to the fire department, chances are the library may be a space that is maybe borrowed during an emergency. Have you all talked about additional places for people to plug in their telephones, places for people to plug in other things if they're charging and that sort of thing? Because this is going to be, it's not just a library, it's going to be part of an important community center. And I think we can't minimize the impact of a fire station right next door.
I would say that one of the bits of feedback that I've absolutely internalized over my career working on dozens of libraries is, why didn't you put an outlet there? There'll be lots of outlets in this building. We'll work very carefully with the library team to make sure that there is really good Wi-Fi connectivity throughout the building and that there are locations to charge devices throughout. We know that is just a non-negotiable in this modern era we live in.
Fabulous. I will also note that because it is a community center, I think we do need to remind Santa Rosa that they have to think about transportation and how people are going to get there. But it's a city, and so I think 35 parking spaces is an amazing number of parking spaces. And I don't know that most of our other libraries have them. So I think that parking spaces are important, but there are other ways to get people there, and buses, as we've talked about, is one of those things. The other question I have is the children's space outside. Are there, as I was looking at the plans, I see that the kids go out and then around and then into the park, but I don't see a whole lot of windows. I don't see that you when you're in the library, you can actually look out and see the kids. And I thought that was kind of, tell me, am I wrong about that?
You're not wrong. It's west facing, as someone else asked about, so we don't want a lot of windows for heat gain and glare there. There is a window directly facing the children's area connecting to the children's garden. So there is a visual connectivity between the two spaces, and you can kind of see that in this view here. So there's this kind of fun little peekaboo window that kids can look through and see out into the children's garden.
And so is there some place that, say, parents or caregivers can kind of sit and watch the kids but not be in the children's space and not be in the sunshine?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not sure if you can see my pointer, so I'm gonna be kind of verbally describe it in this image. You can see the space on the right. We're calling it at the kind of reading garden area. So there's this really just out of the frame, but there's a bunch of benches, but it's all of 20 feet away from the fenced in kids area. So parents could very comfortably sit in that space and be able to have full visual supervision of their children within the children's garden.
Super. I think that does it for me. Any other last questions?
No. Oh, Commissioner Lagos?
Sorry, Deborah made me think of something. Will there be power and electricity outside as well in those areas for programming?
There will be some, we'd have to sort of check and see what the kind of criteria was for outdoor power, but there will certainly be some outdoor power, yeah.
Any other questions from commissioners? Looks like we have had our questions answered, Chair Doyle.
Super. Thank you so much. Much appreciated.
Thank you all.
And so we are then going to move the, oh no, wait, looking at it. Action items, the Roseland Regional Library Construction Project. We're going to move that up in the agenda and talk about that right now.
Chair Doyle, before Erica presents her overview of this item, do you want to take public comments, or do you want to take public comments after she
After her
provides
presentation, correct.
the overview? Okay.
Correct. After the overview.
All right, well, we have this lovely design presentation by architect Abe Jason to give you kind of a general overview of what our new library is going to look like. And now we are asking you to discuss and take a vote on providing additional funding for this larger space. So in your packets, I included information about the history of the project, our kind of evolution in thinking about this library. One of the things I want to emphasize is that, this is the first new library that we're going to build in 20 years. It is going to be a modern 21st century library with a solar roof, a design that flows from indoors to outdoors, innovative outdoor and indoor spaces, and a modern approach to technology. We have evolved our thinking about the size of the library. It is, we are proposing a 12,475 square foot library with an additional 3,000 square feet of outdoor programmable space. We believe this is a design that the Roseland residents will embrace and endorse. It is also designed for indoor-outdoor events. We have our social stair, we have our lawn. We have many partnerships that we have been developing over the years that we will able to utilize this space for, including our partnership with Santa Rosa Symphony, movies on the lawn, story times, pop-up events for the community. So if we wanted to do a health fair or other kind of farmers market events, we can do that on that space. So it's multi-use. The design that Abe presented has all of the basic criteria that we looked for in that original 15,000 square feet, including 3 group study rooms for patrons to use, a maker space, which can function as another large study room. We have a multi-purpose room, which with a capacity, depending upon the use of the room, of 80 or more, that will be available for after hours use as well. This flexibly designed maker marketplace. We can hold large events there. These strong indoor-outdoor relationships with a beautiful patio where people can read a book, enjoy a cup of coffee. A social stair, an amphitheater for outdoor story times and programs. A staff workroom that includes space for an automated materials handling unit and 12 staff workstations, and then a beautifully landscaped learning garden outside the children's section for educational programs and partnerships with our UC Master Gardeners and the Federated Indians of Great Rancheria. Another thing I want to emphasize is that this project is based on a stipulated sum. So when Swinnerton made their proposal for a 10,315 square foot library, it was for a sum of 10 million, roughly 10.5 million. With a stipulated sum, the design builder is obligated to provide the proposed project for a fixed price. So this is regardless of increases in cost to them. So we know that there's a lot of things going on at the federal level, including tariffs. The tariffs will not affect the building and construction on our side. Any increases in costs, the builder will have to absorb, and they cannot pass those on to the city of Santa Rosa or to the library. Now, I will say, the furniture is something that we, will be paying for, or the foundation, and the furniture is something that we may, see, based upon where we buy it, we may experience some increases in costs due to tariffs. So, we're not sure how that's gonna play out just yet. But we have in the packet, I provided a budget with three separate columns. The first one is for the stipulated sum, the 10,315 square feet. And that has a project deficit of roughly $828,000. This is primarily due to design fees, which were not included in any previous iterations of the project. Design fees are something that we pay for in all of our library renovation projects. And it also includes, however, roughly $450,000 of additive alternatives. This was part of the stipulated sum that Swinnerton provided. You have in your packet a list of all the items that are part of that additive alternatives. These are included. So these are things that we would normally pay for, but are included in that $10 million. Already that includes the garden. It includes Wi-Fi, AV equipment, exterior signage, roller shades, fixed casework, And then in this attachment, you'll also see some other items that are included, but there was no value provided. So the 426 additive alternatives, it's actually higher than that, but since they didn't provide a value for the shade membrane or the outdoor furniture, I didn't include that. So there's roughly $426,000 of things that we would normally pay for that is included in the stipulated sum. The 12,475 square foot option has a project deficit of 3.6 million. You'll see that in each column, I have added, furniture, IT, collections. And as we go up in size, we pay more. Larger sizes need more furniture. They need a larger collection. I've also added some funds for public art in the proposal. I would like the Roseland Library to have public art. So in the 12,475 square foot option, I have included $250,000 for public art. Our baseline is roughly $150,000. That is the minimum that we should consider including in the project. And that brings the project to roughly $3.7 million deficit. You will notice that we are asking the Library Commission to appropriate $4 million. We are hopeful that we will be able to continue raising funds for the project to offset that cost. That includes an earmark request that the City of Santa Rosa submitted to Congressman Thompson's office. It also includes, we're also working with the county on an additional funding request and any other fundraising that we will be doing for this project. I also want to let you know that, this is a very conservative budget. This is kind of it's conservative in the sense that we really went with what we thought was going to be the most expensive versus the least. And so it is possible that it will be less than this, but we wanted to have enough room in the budget to, basically, if our furniture costs went up, that we would have some cushion there to increase, for the furniture. You'll also see the 15,000 square foot option has a project deficit of 7.5 million. I believe that this is cost prohibitive. And as you saw in Abe's presentation, it really only gets us an additional, 1,000, square feet. And I think the bang for the buck is really the middle column. If we were talking about, Goldilocks and the Three Bears, we got our first, proposal, which is a little too small. And we have our second proposal, which is a little too much in the middle, which is just right. And that's how I think about this design and this project, that it meets all of the criteria that were outlined in the community needs assessment and provides the meeting rooms, this lovely indoor-outdoor space, this 3,000 square feet of programmable space, and it will be flexibly designed so that as the community changes, as libraries change, as the needs change, we can adapt along with it.
Thanks very much, really. And before we move to commission discussion, I'm going to ask for public comment. And again, you've got 3 minutes.
Okay, is it done? Okay. My name's Anna Diaz and I am from Roseland. Today I'm wearing a t-shirt that our Roseland School District's high school students designed with the help of our lab chair, Pam, actually getting them printed onto a t-shirt. When I was a child, the closest public library to us when I lived on Corby Avenue was downtown Santa Rosa's library. Sometime later, Roseland charter schools were created and built, but without libraries. I don't know why the board at the time agreed to those designs without consideration, but we now have a chance to fix their mistake. Our local students truly depend on this library, and many use it daily. So far, Senator Mike McGuire's office has stepped up with funds, but what about the other state and county leaders of the area? I would be lying if I said I wasn't disappointed in their low efforts and empty support. Last meeting, there was an agenda item. 3 of you actually seemed like you were against it, claiming that your duty as commissioners is not to add funds towards a new library. I don't understand why the support wasn't there until 2 of you bringing up your own library's needs. Windsor and Hillsburg just had funds applied to them that was very desperately needed. But it should not mean that just because this is a new building and it hasn't been done before, that it shouldn't. Roseland was left in the dark and neglected for too long. Then it was annexed to the city of Santa Rosa in 2017 and gained its first city council member in 2020. A temporary library was created next to the old Dollar Tree and now where the old Videotepa used to be. But both locations, it's been ongoing issues. It's been long and overdue for its permanent location and to make it as big and beautiful as we can together. It would be a milestone, and with the community only growing in its population, it's deserved. Not just for me or you, but for the future generations to come. And you can be part of that history. It's important for people in this room, but overall the community to understand its benefits all Sonoma County residents, not just the Southwest community. I personally want to thank Ray and Erica. When we didn't feel seen, you shined the light. Cynthia, our secretary from Lab, who is present. Pam, our Santa Rosa chair, who is also present. Pat Kuda, Friends of the Library, Vice Mayor Alvarez, the donors who believed its mission, everyone who's here in this room from Moreland, Roseland, or overall Sonoma County. Lastly, Commissioner McKenzie, you are not required to, but you wanted to give your own funds towards this project. And I think that says more about you as a person than the community's commissioner. Thank you all for being here present. It truly does make an impact. And I want to end with this. Roseland does matter. Si se puede.
Thank you. Additional public comment?
Yes.
Hello, thank you. My name is Paula Lane. I'm the Associate Dean of the School of Education, Counseling, and Ethnic Studies at Sonoma State, the Chair of the School of Teacher Education and Leadership, and a longtime elementary school methods instructor for teachers, teaching them how to teach science to kids. I would like to say that if you understanding equity can be kind of a mixed bag. At first, we think equity is, of course, giving everyone at the table exactly the same cup and the same amount of liquid, the same drink. That's equity. But in education, we know that it's actually you get people what they need, and not everybody needs the same cup. They don't need the same amount of water. They don't need the same things. And your job as commissioners, I understand you have to vouch for your constituents. You have to vouch for where you are, who you are, and you represent others. I'm here to say, get Roseland what it needs. This library, this community place is an amazing chance. And some people have thrown in funds. I'm not here to question anything or to even comment on design or funding, except to say, you will be making a difference in a community and in the whole area. We will all benefit greatly from what this new modern building will be. And I can speak for those of you who know Sonoma State, the Stevenson remodel. If those of you ever were at Stevenson, we were part of all the meetings and we haggled over everything, whether there'd be, gender neutral bathrooms and on what floor and whether the windows would be on the outside or the inside. And that building is now a modern place that's gorgeous. And faculty offices are inside and we don't have windows, but the students do. And it used to be the other way around. And the architects were the amazing idea behind it. Yes, we got lactation rooms. Yes, we dealt with the bathrooms. Yes, our offices, you can't move the furniture, but that's not the issue. It's that it's a beautiful learning place. And I think this library design, the thinking behind it, the funding, would really make a difference. You would be making a mark versus spreading out your support so that the same thing happens everywhere, that money is divided up in sort of a perfectly equitable way that isn't really equitable. It's not getting people what they need. Thank you.
Thank you. Adina Flores, I believe, is attending virtually and has something to say. Adina, Ms. Flores, you have 3 minutes.
Good evening, commissioners. Thank you. I thought
thought of some grave concerns while I listened to this presentation that tie into the funding that have not been addressed. The commissioners actually brought up the SMART train and the need for public transportation. And if the tiny tax does not renew within the next 3 years, then the SMART train will immediately cease operations. So that has not been addressed. Another major issue is you stated that the fire station will be a community partner and they will be in very close proximity working with you all. And we're about to lose 26 billion gallons of water through the Potter Valley Dam decommissioning. So how is that going to affect Roseland constituents? Because how many are farm workers and how many will be out of work as we continue to gentrify that community? So the Spanish speaking individuals in that community are largely uninformed on what's happening. I know that for a fact because I speak with them daily. And so until those matters have been addressed and the finances have been recalculated to forecast, this decision should be halted to have an accurate reflection in your numbers on what that will look like. So please consider my words before voting on this action item. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Hi, I'm Pat Cuda, and I'm Vice President of the Sonoma County Library Foundation. And my colleagues and I had the great pleasure of meeting with all of you in the last couple of months, and it was so nice to have a dialogue and to share with you our visions. I also want to acknowledge that I have spoken on this issue to you before. I explained how the goal of the Roseland Library created a robust, rebuilt foundation. We now have the capacity to support not only this project, which we will continue to do, as well as support the vision of the whole system going forward. We were also, I explained to you, the largest contributor to the campaign for Measure W. And I think it was a significant effort an investment in our community and is providing you with ongoing revenue to the system. And we just want to acknowledge that. But today I'd like to really speak about equity as well within our system. I looked up the statistics today and learned that Santa Rosa has 175,000 people. It's actually 174,500 people. That's larger by threefold than the next largest city in the county of 58,000 people, which is Petaluma. By adding an additional fourth library, we have 3 now. Each library serves, if you divide that, about 58,000 people, about as many as the whole city of Petaluma. If you divide that by 4 with the new branch in Roseland, it's going to be, 43,000 people served by each library if you kind of spread it out. That's about the same size as the Rohnert Park system, which serves about 43,000 people. And they have a 20,000 square foot library, which is wonderful, and we love it. So we feel that this support today that we're asking for the 12,000 plus square foot library is really well within the goal of equity within the system, and we really support you to look at that effort. We also want to look at what we're losing in a 10,000 square foot library. What we have, the vision was originally 20,000 square foot library, and our partnerships with providers, providing services to immigrants, providing basic career development is going to be severely hampered in a 10,000 square foot library. So we really urge you today to look into the just right sized library. And I also want to reiterate that our commitment is still to lower the amount that you eventually will have to do in support. We have a $2 million ask into the county. We're meeting with the state again on Erica and I on Friday. We have major donors that we are still looking at 6-figure asks. So we are all in, and we expect and hope that you will be too. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Much appreciated. Any other public comment?
We have more comment.
No other comment?
Yes.
One
we do.
more.
please.
My name is Bo Simons. I retired after 33 years as a librarian with the Sonoma County Library several years ago. Latino outreach was a key part of my career and life. So when Craig Palmer came a couple of years ago and asked me to help fund the Roseland Library, I told him I'm your man. Now, a Sonoma County Library Foundation board member, I know how diligently you have all worked to pursue this goal. I know you commissioners know that the library in the southwest part of Santa Rosa has been a dream for decades. And the wine and hospitality industries, as well as all sectors of the economy in Sonoma County, are powered by the sangre, sudor y lágrimas, that is the blood, sweat, and tears of the Latino community here in Roseland. Here's 3 reasons why the Roseland Library needs your vote on the right size library. It fills the need. Your dedicated commissioners know it's been a long time coming. This library has to feed the hungry minds and expand the horizons of the people it needed here. And there's been a storefront library and now a rented space library. And you've seen the presentation today of the beautiful game-changing library in just the right size. 2, Sonoma County Library has the means. The library has the means to do this. My wife chaired the Measure Y committee in 2016, and now the passage of the Measure W has in November. The library has the wherewithal to help this project with a $4 million addition to the unassigned fund balance. Making opportunities happens is the 3rd. Opportunities are what libraries offer. Benjamin Franklin, no slouch at creating opportunities, started the Library Company, a cooperative library for tradesmen in Philadelphia in 1731, which was mimicked by the San Francisco Mechanics Institute Library in 1854. All the while, the American Free Public Library movement barreled towards through the 19th century. Today, libraries offer sanctuary, the collective wisdom of the past, and the means to shape a better future. Hope reigns in the Roseland Library. Keep the dream alive and go for the medium-sized library. Let's put a face on this. Carlos was a student that I helped at the library. His family came here before he was born. His father came to earn a pretty good living as a vineyard manager, but he had left school in Mexico when he was 14. Carlos's father did not want him to stay in school, but with the help of the library, Carlos was able to make up classes, get a real diploma, and walk in the graduation ceremony. Carlos has 1,000 brothers and sisters in Roseland. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Additional public comment?
Hi again, I'm Pam Van Helsema, and I serve on the Santa Rosa lab for the libraries. And as you know, I've been a supporter of this project, and I feel very strongly that the library needs to make this investment. First of all, I just want to thank you for your commitment to lifelong learning and creating inclusive spaces all over our county and creating services that really serve our diverse population. I also want to thank you for the commitment that you've made more than once that libraries are for everyone. In February of 2022, the commission unanimously adopted a resolution of a public statement on racism and social equity and recommitted the statement of inclusivity. Being included is something that the people of Roseland and Southwest Santa Rosa have not had really over the years, for many, many years. They have not experienced inclusion equitably. Decision makers have left them behind, but we know that the portrait of Sonoma County tells us that Roseland is an area in our county with the lowest socioeconomic outcomes in the whole region. And so this has been an area that's been marginalized and under-resourced. Thankfully, you, the Library Commission, and our library staff and the supporters of our library are the forces that turn this around, that are committed to turning it around. Thank you for taking this step to invest in Roseland and the people, because libraries lift communities up. Libraries open doors to opportunity. Libraries are places to explore, celebrate, and learn with others. Right now, we are in unprecedented times, Immigrants are essential and a valued part of our community, but sadly, immigrants are under attack at the moment. And libraries are too. Southwest Santa Rosa is a vibrant, talented, hardworking community with many immigrants. Here in Sonoma County, we stand with our immigrant community and we stand by our libraries. So I urge the Library Commission to demonstrate your support by making this once-in-a-generation investment in this building. Use the funds that you have, which are taxpayer funds, and make something that brings hope and a bright future to the real people that live here for now and for many years to come. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Additional public comment.
Good evening. My name is Rena Wang, and I am a board member with the Library Foundation. Actually, my colleagues covered many of the salient points already, so I will keep this very short. I think from an equity perspective, a community perspective, and a future-oriented visionary perspective, your investment in this project is not only special, but it's necessary. I view it as absolutely necessary. And so I will say I've been following this project now, having joined the foundation and everything for several months, and I still am amazed by just how necessary this project is and the wonderful opportunity that you have right in front of you. So please, I urge you to vote yes on this resolution to increase the appropriations by $4 million. And I think it'll be the best money ever spent.
Thank you so much. Additional public comment.
Good evening. I know it's late, so I'm going to go fast. My name's Cynthia Denenholtz, and I'm a member of the Santa Rosa Library Advisory Board, and I also tutor with the Adult Literacy Program, but I'm here now speaking for myself. And I want to speak in support of what Erica called the Goldilocks proposal, in support of the Library Commission allocating $4 million for the construction of the Roseland branch of the Sonoma County Library. I don't need to tell all of you how important libraries are. You said that yourselves tonight, actually, by giving the proclamation in favor of National Library Week. And I can also tell by the questions that were asked during the presentation that you realize that space is important to libraries. We need the larger space for all of the things that the Sonoma County Library does now, that you were all talking about needing to be done in the various rooms in the library demonstration design presented by Mr. Jason. And not only do we want to design this library or build this library for today, but for all of the things that we can envision that libraries will do for the future, and that we probably can't even envision at this point. We need the library to have space for the popular Tai Chi classes that are held, for the book clubs that meet in person, such as Tortilla Literaria, for community meetings, for worker training, for maker spaces, for teens, for kids. We need a lot of space. And we also need space because this branch is going to be located in a neighborhood where many of the people don't have access to transportation. And frankly, they won't travel then to the other branches. And in this day and age, unfortunately, as Pam alluded to, they may not choose to go far from home, want to stay pretty close to home right now. I'm asking that you all be courageous in support of public investments and public infrastructure in this time. It's not something that's happening everywhere, but I think that's something that will live far into the future and bring a credit to all of you and to each of you. I also think that because this is a Sonoma County Library, and given our community, Sonoma County communities, real support for underserved communities, underserved people in areas that all of your constituents will be happy if you allocate money for the Roseland branch of the Sonoma County Library. So please invest in the future of Sonoma County and especially Sonoma County Libraries. Thanks for your time.
Thanks very much. Additional public comment.
Hi, my name is Joe Seymour. I'm on the board of the Friends of the Santa Rosa Library. And I'm sure some of you know, we've actually been involved with this for decades, that we've been hoping for a Roseland Library. We've had big plans that we've seen things bloom and shrink. So But it's always been our goal that we believe that Roseland deserves the best library that you can provide for them. And we hope you do that. The other thing we hope to do is what I've seen over the many years we've doing this is the price goes up. And it just keeps going up and it just keeps going up. So I hope we can get this done and allocate the money and let's get building. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Additional speakers?
Good evening. I will also try to keep my comments short. I am Susan Farrow. I live in the city of Santa Rosa. And when I saw this Measure W to create money that the library system could use, and I thought that it really had in mind building a library for the area of Roseland. As well as the other folks, about equity, some people think fair is equity, but equity is not fair because other areas have had libraries a long time. Most schools have school libraries, and here is a community that really needs this support. I worked for the University of California in admissions for 32 years at 2 campuses. I can tell you that the libraries are the lifeblood for first-generation college students, no matter what their language or their background. First-generation college students need that site. And so if you can go for that golden box, I would really feel proud of our community and the dollars that you're spending and the fact that we voted for Measure W to make a huge difference in this county. And by providing the resource in the neighborhood that really needs it, it would be so helpful. I am a first-generation college student. I went to libraries as a child, most of them not near where I lived. And so to have a library close enough that I see my community members and I see opportunities that kids in the other part of town have too, it made a huge difference for me in my life. And I just want to encourage you again, go for that bigger library, please. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Additional public comment?
Any other comments? Looks like that's it, Chair Doyle? Okay.
One more.
Yeah, I just want to underscore, my name is Shivananda Friedman. And while I'm commissioner on the Santa Rosa Housing Authority Board, I'm not speaking at all for the board, just as an individual citizen of Santa Rosa. I just want to thank the people who know more specifics than I do about what's involved with the library and the size of it. And I hope that you'll give lots of consideration to having it be larger, considerably larger than 10,000 square feet. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Any last words from the public?
I think now that's it,
All
Chair
right.
Doyle.
Madam Chair,
Thanks very much. And then,
Yes.
so,
I
What?
would suggest that now would be a good time
wait.
for our 5-minute break.
Oh, all right. 5-minute break.
Is that a yes, Chair Doyle? 5-minute break? Yes?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, I feel better now. I'm really glad that
I have some extras. I wanted to make sure. You got stickers? Yeah. Let's see, I'm gonna say, so I don't know if it's that. Yeah, oh, yeah. I mean, I'm being, yeah, I heard.
Did we say 5 minutes?
You did say 5 minutes. You're losing control.
Never. Thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. Lovely time in Japan.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Yeah, it was good. Our daughter is studying there, so she was our tour guide and translator.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, it was good. Too short, as always. 2 weeks. 2 weeks is actually pretty good. That's probably the longest vacation I've taken in years.
Next time.
So it's been 5 minutes, and if we could have everybody take their seats. We're waiting for Commissioner McKenzie to come back.
I have to. We all here?
Not yet. Here we come.
Are we all set?
Okay, we are all assembled. Deborah?
Excellent. All right. Then we are going to start our commission discussion of the Roseland Regional Library Construction Project. And again, Brooke, I'm afraid I'm going to have to depend on you because I can't see the hands.
Okay, it looks like we're all back in place, Chair Doyle.
All right. So before someone makes a motion, I think we should have our discussion, but we have been talking about this for a while. So do we have hands up for people who want to make a comment on the commission?
Commissioner McKenzie has a hand up.
I don't have to be first, but I want to be sure I have a comment. If others want to talk, that's fine.
Well, Commissioner McKenzie, since your hand was first, go for it.
Okay, I have said so many times that I don't believe anyone is opposed to having a very nice library in Roseland. I am, of course, completely supportive of having a very nice library in Roseland. The issue is really the fact that we have a governing document, which is a joint powers agreement, and all the joint powers are supposed to be treated equitably. I think that the long history of the library has been that the joint powers themselves, the different jurisdictions, the city and the county have put up the buildings, and then the library does all the inside stuff, the staff and everything inside. That's the long history of this joint powers agreement. And so to ignore our governing document and our governing and the long history is that's what I feel is the problem. So I have a statement I'd like to read into the record. I'd also like to have it be attached to our minutes. And I'm going to read it right now.
Copies?
don't see it. Yeah, I'll get you a copy of it. So this is a statement of opposition to approving the allocation of $4 million for the building of the Roseland Regional Library. Assisting one jurisdictional member with construction of a new library building, in this case, the city of Santa Rosa, is not in keeping with the history, the spirit, or the intention of the JPA agreement. Sonoma County Library does not use its funds to build buildings. This has been the JPA members' responsibility to build or to otherwise provide the buildings. This significant allocation of library funds, $4 million, for one city or jurisdiction to help build a new library would set a precedent that in all likelihood we could not meet for other jurisdictions. We have no underlying clearly stated policy for doing this. We have many other needs for our unassigned fund balances, including paying down our long-term liabilities and funding a headquarters building, as well as the ongoing needs for the various current countywide facilities. Measure Y funds are to be used, quote, for maintaining aging library facilities, many of which are over 40 years old, to make them safe, clean, and welcoming. That's the language in the tax measure that people voted for. There is no mention in the tax measure of using the funds to build new buildings, only to maintain the current aging ones. Measure Y does say that funds can be used to, quote, keep the Roseland Library open, but under no scenario that we're talking about or discussed as Roseland the library being closed. That's not even an option. Current Sonoma County Library unassigned fund balances total approximately $21 million, but do not reflect an estimated $4 million for plans currently in process to renovate the Rincon Valley Regional Library, or the shortfall of over $600,000 and an anticipated additional amount for another change order for the Healdsburg Regional Library, thereby reducing the unassigned fund balances to about $16 million. Helping to fund one library building would use 1/4 of the unassigned fund balances. This is not the equity required by the Joint Powers Agreement, i.e. Section B, quote, distribution of resources. The library shall distribute its personnel, financial, and technological resources among the various regional libraries in an equitable fashion unless such distribution is expressly restricted, such as in the conditions in a gift or bequest. Unpleasant as it is, and let me tell you, it's very unpleasant to be in a minority position on this. My focus has been on upholding the governing document of our library system, but it's very unpleasant to do this, but I cannot vote for this allocation or funds. Thank you.
Commissioner
Well,
Cahill?
Yes,
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah. Commissioner McKenzie's view is heartfelt but legally incorrect. Both our present lawyer and the former lawyer made it quite clear that equity is not equality and that we're allowed to do stuff like this. If this project were a violation of the GPA, I'm sure our lawyer would have insisted that the item be pulled. I just want to say there was one key meeting that changed my mind about this library. We had the foundation put a fundraiser on March 6th last month. And I had been concerned that the 10,000 square foot library was grossly insufficient. And I talked with Abe about how small it looked. And he said, well, do you know the difference between net and gross? And I said, well, I think I do. He said, well, they've taken out all the wasted space from the 15,000 foot design. And it's essentially now equivalent space for the net area for the 15,000 and the Goldilocks. So that took my big concern away because this is just what we need. Secondly, the Santa Rosa mayor was at this fundraiser, big surprise to me. He had a ringing endorsement for this project. He said this must happen. It's not only necessary for Roseland, but the parts of the county that are outside the Roseland city limits. So this project has been planned to death. I remember when we had about 3 years ago, when we had the grand opening for the second temporary Roseland branch on Sebastopol Road, at least 2 elected office holders and maybe more said, we know this is not the end. It's not the plan. The plan is to have a much bigger and newer Roseland library. So I'm convinced, I've always been in favor of this project, but I think it should move ahead.
Commissioner Legas?
I appreciate your comments, Barbara, and I know we've been having a lot of conversations in the JPA meetings, but I have a different interpretation of the JPA. In the powers, in B, specific powers, it states, the Sonoma County Library is authorized in its own name to perform all acts necessary for the exercise of common powers to carry out this agreement, including but not limited to, number 4, acquire, construct, manage, maintain, and operate. And it has the word construct in there. And I think that that is where it clearly states that the library has the permission through the JPA to build a library. So that's just one comment I'd like to make about what you've mentioned. The other one I'd like to make, I think David mentioned this a little bit, so I'm going to expand on it. And I always think that it helps to have a visual. So I'm sorry, Deborah, I know you can't see this. But this is what equality is, and this is what equity is. And the JPA clearly states equity. So I'm going to just turn it for everyone else to see. It's just a picture of kids on boxes looking at a baseball game. So The reason though, there's another version of this that then has justice, but we're not going to get into that. So we're just talking about equality and equity right here. And the JPA is really clear that we need to be equitable, not equal. Equal is where everyone gets the same thing. So every kid is standing on the same box. But you can see that not every kid can see the baseball game. So if we provide equitable resources, which means that every single person gets what they each need to be successful, then that means that this kid gets 2 boxes so that they can see, this kid gets 1, and this kid doesn't need any boxes because they're already going, they're fine. And I think that's what the JPA is calling us to do. It's to be equitable with our resources. So we have provided funding for Petaluma and Healdsburg, and we haven't asked those communities to come out and plead their cases the way that we've had, I don't know, 20 people come in the last today alone, let alone the 3 other meetings that have come and people have spoken to us. That's not equitable. We haven't made Petaluma or Healdsburg or any of the other libraries that have received funds for modernization projects come and have to beg us for funding. That makes me feel very uncomfortable that we are asking our community to do that. If we were being equitable in the way that the JPA was asking us to be, we would be providing the $4 million for our Roseland Library to stand on so that they can see the baseball game, the same way that we've provided funding for Petaluma and Healdsburg and all the other projects so far without making those communities come and beg us for them. So I am strongly in support of us allocating this $4 million. It is what the community has come and asked us for. It's what we have promised to do. And I think we can vote today to do that.
Commissioner Engbarth.
Submitted a written statement that I'm not going to repeat here, but picking up on what Sarah said, we're in a situation where we don't even know how many boxes we might need or not need. We haven't spent as a library the time to follow up on the initial commitment that was made in the JPA to develop a way of funding new buildings. In 1971, they identified that there was going to be a problem with infrastructure aging out, the buildings not being up to date, the needing more maintenance all the time. And that's a national problem now. And we haven't addressed it as a commission. This comes up, the difference, I think, between Petaluma and the other libraries that you mentioned, Sarah, is that those are maintenance projects, which we have a policy for. You know, there's a process to go through if you're wanting to get approval to do a maintenance project. It involves going to the director. It involves going to the budget, our finance committee. It involves talking to us. It involves going to staff. Everybody needing to get through it, but there's a process. We don't have a process for this because the commission hasn't directly addressed the problem of how are we going to fund new library buildings, given the fact that we need to get the maintenance built up, the cost is going out of control, and we need new buildings. We've got 3 task force, at least 3, working on that now. The JPA review committee. We've got the building committee that Andy's working on. You know, we also have the partners to talk about, and I would enjoy having a discussion with all those entities about what equity is and what it means, and what that means in terms of the financing of the buildings that we need to provide the citizens of the county the libraries that they deserve. I think Roseland deserves a big and beautiful library. I agree with that. But look, in terms of this process that we have, to put quotes around the word process, it's gone from 20,000 square feet to now 12,000 square feet in less than a year. You know, I think Roseland deserves a 20,000 square foot building. And I'm not, as Nelson Mandela said, to accept something less than what it is that you are desirous of and what you need, just because it's convenient. I don't think that it does us any good. And it's not going to do Roseland any good when they're problems start coming up with the library not being planned out enough for some of the things that we talked about here today, that we were presented with just today, that we presented feedback to the architect about, that haven't been addressed or haven't been reviewed. God knows what's going to happen when the work starts. So I'm voting no. I've given my reasons in my statement, and I support Barbara in her no vote as well.
Thank you very much. We have not actually called for a vote, and no one's moved anything. Jeff, do you want to say a few words? This is our attorney.
Sure. So the conversation that you've now had at a number of meetings related to Roseland, I think is exactly what the Joint Powers Agreement contemplates and what the parties contemplated when they formed a JPA, is that they would appoint commissioners who would then be empowered to make decisions in a way that would further an equitable distribution of resources. And as Commissioner Lagos pointed out and Commissioner Cahill, the word is equitable, not equal. And it is up to the commission in the first instance to make a decision about equity in this particular circumstance. I understand that the commission, the library, has not built a branch. However, the commission has the authority to do so under the Joint Powers Agreement. It is empowered to construct, and construct is not limited under the Joint Powers Agreement to expansion or reconstruction or remodeling. It is construction. And so I am quite comfortable that the commission has the authority to do what it chooses to do. Now it's totally up to you all on what you want to do with it, but I believe you have that authority.
Thank you. Other commission comments?
Commissioner Goldberg?
I'm going to vote to give
No
the floor.
voting. Wait, no, don't vote. We haven't moved. We're not voting.
I have a couple points I want to make then.
There we go.
I have some misgivings, some questions, and some a little bit of dread about some things that could go wrong with this plan, especially about the outdoor space and who's going to pay to maintain it and what's the security really going to be for kids out there. And you mentioned that it's libraries are aspirational. I think it's really aspirational to think that people are going to come to the library and basically go to a park where there's not really shade, where we're not in Santa Barbara or San Diego. It's hot in the summer, unbearably. It's cold and rainy in the winter. I'm just not really sure if this outdoor space is really going to be used. So I'm just throwing, I think it's going to wind up costing us more than we think. And Director Tebow has already said it may. I just have questions with it. I hope parking, things like that, I hope they get addressed and that we don't keep going down a path that winds up having more problems that can in some ways be seen already today. And I hope some of these things get addressed. But I also think we have an opportunity to help make this library as big as it can be now.
Other comments?
Oh, looks like, Commissioner Cahill has another comment.
Yeah, I serve on the newly created ad hoc capital projects committee. We did meet at Commissioner Goldberg's house a couple of weeks ago. We had a good discussion. We are looking toward how to do a meaningful 5 to 10 year capital projects plan, that is in the out years. We have a current plan, the master facilities plan, which is good for short time. One of the things we came up with, I confess, I think it was my brainchild, is that we've done a lot of construction recently. We really have. And I figured that the staff knows what's worked and what has not worked. And I suggested putting essentially together a notebook of best practices, what to do and what not to do. And I use the totally fantasy example of, suppose there's always been a problem with getting decent light fixtures here, that should go in such a notebook. But anyway, the committee is working diligently on a long-term planning. I think the present stuff has been overplanned, frankly, the Rosen project. We know it's been needed. The county pulled the plug on us in 2018 because of the fires that set us back. Then we had the plainly insignificant temporary branch. This is just what Rosen needs, so I'm going to vote for it. Thanks.
I don't see any more commissioner comments, Chair Doyle.
Thank you. I'm going to make a comment. I think we've all referred to it, but certainly this project has been on the mind of the library and in its future focus for many, many years, as some of our commenters said in public comment. Certainly before I was a commissioner, and I think that that's a really important, and certainly before Roseland was part of Santa Rosa. I think it's important to remember that this has been one of our future dreams for a long time, and I think that it is our honor to be able to meet that. I also speak from Washington, knowing that things are going to be grim in terms of funding from other places. And I think that we need to take this opportunity now to get this started, to be committed to this, and to get it into we need to get it farther enough along so that we know that we can make this library happen. I think that if we decide that we're going to wait for 2 years, 5 years before all the parties and the members of the JPAs get together to talk about equity and equality, I think that is going to be way too long. And I think that things that are happening in Washington are going to have an impact on what goes on in Sacramento in terms of funding. And so I think that since we can do it now, and since we are committed to Roseland and always have been as a library and as a library commissioner, I think that we should move forward with this. So if there are no other comments, I would take I would love to take the privilege of the chair to make the first motion, but I will reserve that for someone else. So who would like to move?
I would like to move. I'd like to move that the Sonoma County Library Commission approve the staff's recommendation for the size, the allocation of $4 million, and to increase the appropriations as necessary.
I'll second.
We have a tie for a second.
Yeah, well, okay.
All right. Then I'm going to take the roll. Commissioner Cahill.
Yeah.
Commissioner Engbarth.
No.
Commissioner Goldberg.
Yes.
Commissioner Green.
Yes.
Commissioner Heavenridge.
Yes.
Commissioner Lagos.
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie.
No.
Commissioner Poles.
Yes.
And I will say yes. That means that we are moving forward. Thank you very much, everybody, for long and robust conversations. And I know that everybody wants this library system to be the best it can be for all of the people of Sonoma County. So then we will move on to, and thank you, Jeff, for stepping in as well. We are going to move on to, let me get back there, the annual report. We're back to 5.2.
All right. Thank you all. It's a long night, and we are just still at the top of our agenda.
We can pour through this.
All right, so I am here to share with you our annual report. I just want to remind you all that this is for fiscal year 23-24. We are, still waiting for the state library to release the rest of the statistics. Part of that has to do with the IMLS. So the state library reports the statistics to the IMLS. I don't really know what's going to happen with that. So this is what we provide every year to the state library. So I will give my report, and then I will ask for some direction for future reports. So let's get started. Okay, is the clicker not working? Oh, okay, thank you. All right, so this is the annual report for 23-24. Can you just forward the next slide? Yeah. So as a reminder, we rely upon our reimagining plan to help guide us in our decision-making process. This is for all of our programs and services to our community. Our plan includes 3 major focus areas: providing opportunities for all to learn, contribute, interact, and participate; furthering community resiliency; and fostering racial equity, social justice, and inclusion for everyone. And I believe the recent vote that we just took really upholds all 3 of those. Next slide, please. So our major accomplishments for last year include our first all lab day since before the pandemic. During this event, we had lab members from all of our labs countywide attend. CFO Lopez presented to the labs on our library budget. We held a robust discussion about the role and purpose of the labs, as well as how to better facilitate communication between the labs, the Library Commission, and the library administration. Next, please. We also debuted 3 new library cards last year, including a new Peanuts card. We had an event at Central Library featuring our guest star Snoopy, Gene Schultz, and officials from the Schultz Museum. We also debuted our Free People Read Freely library card. And then we had an art contest, an art card contest as part of summer reading. And we had a young person win the prize for their design. We also had an artist design card, Flickers, by Indigenous artist Hadassah Green Sky. And she debuted her design at the Sebastopol Library. In addition to new library card designs, we kicked off our Speakers Bureau in spring of 2024. We reached over 32,000 people. We had 29 volunteers trained. We gave 100 presentations, and we sent out 2 survey mailers and received 1,383 responses. That survey mailer informed our Measure W expenditure plan. We also continued our BiblioBox implementation. By the end of this fiscal year, we will have BiblioBoxes at 10 of our 12 libraries. So the remaining 2 are Petaluma and Roseland. The Petaluma BiblioBox will be implemented when that library reopens. And then Roseland, when the new Roseland Regional Library is built, we will have our BiblioBox there. We also met our fundraising goals for fiscal year 23-24, raising $1.2 million, and held fundraising events, including the first ever David Sabsay Legacy Society meeting, as well as house parties to raise money for Roseland. Next slide, please. So last year, again, we had an amazing year for circulation. Next slide. We had over 2.7 million physical checkouts, 1.3 million digital. Those are our most recent stats. Compared to last year, our physical circulation actually decreased by 1%, and our digital circulation has increased by 27%. And we hit the 1,000 milestone in Libby in October of 2023. Next slide, please. So you can see this is our comparative circulation. This is from pre-Measure Y 2015-2016 to last year. Our physical circulation makes up about 62% of our circulation, while digital comes in at 38%. You can see it also grows every year. The digital circulation is a 27% increase from the prior year. And you will also notice that our physical circulation is down about 10% from 2015. Next slide, please. We also had increases in programming and attendance. Now, this is still, recovering from the pandemic. We had an increase of 37% in events and activities, and a 43% increase in attendees. We had a variety of programs last year. The picture that we have here is a chef. He did a cooking program and demonstration at Central Library during Black History Month. It was, and the Friends of the Library, if Joe is still here, generously donated copies of the cookbooks to everybody who participated. We also held our Teen Film Festival at the Rohnert Park Katati Library. our Zine Fest, the Santa Rosa Zine Fest, in conjunction with the Northwest branch, as well as Petaluma's LumaCon, which is always well attended every year. Our Lectura Fest, our bilingual celebration of reading. Lunch at the Library. This was the first time that we had teen volunteers, as well as a plethora of other programs, including Medicare workshops, Alzheimer Association talks, technology classes, music performances, and art workshops for intergenerational groups. So we have so many programs every day. You know, if you go onto our online events calendar, it's really hard to choose among all of the options that we have available. Next slide, please. We also saw an increase in outside and offsite programming. This includes our Bibliobus as well as our branch outreach. We saw a 49% increase in offsite programming and programs and a 19% in attendance. Compared to last year, our outreach has increased by 49%. So we're really doing a great job getting out into the community and making sure that people understand all of the things and resources that we offer. Next slide, please. So lastly, you know, we have increased our staff to 288. This includes 183 full-time staff and 105 part-time staff. In contrast to 2015-16, pre-Measure Y, we only had 163 employees. This is a 76.6% increase since the passage of Measure Y. So you can see the impact that those sales tax funds have had on our staffing, our programming, our outreach, and all of the things that make our library responsive to our community and its residents. Lastly, before I finish, I would like you all, we had a suggestion at one of our Friends and Foundation President's meeting. One of our Friends members asked why we don't do an annual report, a written report like the Measure Y committee creates. And to be honest with you, I don't have an answer for that, but I'm asking you for your direction on this. Is that something that you would like us to create going forward? It is something we could put on our website. It is something that we could give to our JPA partners. You know, I don't really know why the annual report has always been given in this manner, but you know, it was a suggestion by a Friends member, and so I thought it would be worthwhile to ask the commission what they would like to see in the future.
I enjoy it this way, but I wonder how our partners see this. You don't go to each city council and deliver this. So,
I mean, we do when we have made a habit of each commissioner giving a presentation before the city council, but not all city councils have made time for us to present. So, you know, I think it's up to the partner how they would like, and that might be something that, you know, we can include in the JPA review. Is how would they like to receive this? It is included in the commission packet. It is publicly available, but aside from, you know, the publicly available commission packet and any presentation that we might give to the city council, that's kind of, you know, what we're asking.
Commissioner McKenzie?
I think, yes, for sure, we should have an annual report in a more traditional format. I get them all the time from different organizations. It's, and just from listening to you, you gave us so much more information than what you see in a slide. All the examples, the narrative, you know, just the kind of information that I think adds a lot of meat to some slides like this. So I would highly encourage that approach, and I thank you for asking us.
Commissioner Legas?
I would just think about it from the staff time. So my question back to you would be, what is the burden? What is the, I shouldn't say burden. What would be the staff time that would be needed to compile and create something like this? These have very short shelf lives. You know, if they're an annual report, they're usually good for less than a year because 9 months, 3 months it usually takes you to produce it. Having just written 2 annual reports for SRJC, I can attest to the fact that they go and they sit on a shelf somewhere, especially printed ones. So I just really would question how much staff time would be needed and if it is a useful tool for the library.
I don't know. I mean, I think that we do the measure, the Measure Y committee report. So we have a model for how to prepare that report. Now, that one specifically focuses on sales tax. But, the fact is that, we have a very lengthy statistical report that we submit to the state library. It is very dry. There's no narrative whatsoever. So I don't know. I mean, I think it would be worth, at least doing once to see, is this useful? I also think that it is a good piece of marketing material for the library. Yeah.
Commissioner Heavenridge?
I think anything that is an historical document is important as we move forward. All these commissioners aren't going to be here. Historical knowledge is really important. So having a detailed report what the library did that year. I mean, even library directors don't stay around forever. So I think it's important to have that historical knowledge, and having a detailed historical report every year is important. For marketing too, but I think it would be nice to be able to go and have it digital. So a lot of questions come up in our meetings. Well, Barbara and I have been around a long time, but we can't remember everything. It'd be nice to be able to, yeah. So it'd be nice to be able to have an archive that we can go back. I mean, we are a library system, duh. And so I would highly recommend a yearly report that's very detailed, and not just statistics, because you're doing that for the state, but we could have that part of it.
Commissioner Engberth?
Yeah, I back up everything everybody's been saying. And I think maybe having a written report with a sort of quote unquote podcast, with a video that could go out for people that are interested in watching it, of you doing the presentation. That it'd be easy for a commissioner to say to the city council, I have this written document, but also there's this video that you could watch digitally whenever you want to play it at at a meeting, that provides you the information about the library.
I mean, I'll say, I'm a fan. I am a fan of repackaging content. And, frankly, we already do a lot of this work already for the Measure Y committee, so it would not be that much additional work to produce a full report. All right, so I think I have my direction.
I'm back after a small technical difficulty, and I think it's important that we have an annual report that includes everything. I think that it's a terrific marketing tool. It's also it's easier for people who don't understand exactly what a JPA is or what a special district is, to be able to see it in one place, to see where does the money come from? What do we do? I think that's really important. And it's also easier for commissioners when they go to their town council meetings or their supervisor meetings, which we should be doing regularly, to have it in one package as well.
Thank you.
All right, if there is nothing else from that, then we will go to library reports. Erica?
Sorry, my paperwork is all disarrayed.
Did I miss something? I'm just annual report.
You're good. Erica needs a moment to gather her papers.
Fabulous. And we can roar through these if there are, if people don't have it.
I will just say, are there any questions about the library report? No, okay, all right.
Do we have questions about the library reports?
No.
Yeah, okay. Budget.
Wait, there is one question.
I just feel like it's important to point out that in the reduced numbers of people attending the programming, the reduced amount of physical checkouts, that it really is We really are being impacted by the renovations, which we spoke about last time. I didn't do the calculations before, but it's like 23% down in programming and 15% on physical checkouts. It's really makes a difference when people can't get in to their library. So I know we're all really eager to have everything all gussied up and open again. Thought I, for the record. Okay, thank you.
And I should have said, this is relates to an earlier item. I think that probably all the public has left, but it was wonderful for them to come to spend so much time about a subject that they're very passionate about. All right, budget and finance.
Good evening. I just want to check to see if you all had any questions for me this evening.
I don't see questions. Thank you, Mary.
Fabulous. Okay. We don't have anything for library advisory boards, the foundation or the Friends, although we want to thank everybody from the labs and the foundation who came to speak. So the consent calendar is next. These matters include routine financial and administrative actions that may be approved by a consensus. Any commission member or member of the public may request that an item be removed from the calendar and have it placed with the action items. The commission will approve the minutes of the prior meetings in summary format. Do we have any objections? Do we have anything that anyone wants to remove from the consent calendar?
Yes, we have a couple of hands here. Commissioner Goldberg.
I'd like to remove the one about the sorter at the Sebastopol Library, for discussion.
8.2.
Whenever that's gonna be next month or whenever we discuss it, but I need some discussion.
Commissioner McKenzie?
Yes, I second that. I was gonna have that pulled also, and we also got a new information tonight. I'd like to read it, have a discussion about that, because I have questions about it. That's 8.2. And I'd also like to pull 8.3 because I have a question about it.
Okay, anybody else?
Looks like that's it.
Okay, then do I have a motion to accept the consent calendar absent the two items that have been pulled?
So moved.
I'll second.
Who was first?
I was. Mackenzie,
Okay,
the one that's pulling the other item.
all right, then we have a second as well. Commissioner Cahill,
Yes.
Commissioner Engelhardt,
Yes.
Commissioner Goldberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Green,
Yes.
Commissioner Heavenridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Legos,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Commissioner Coles.
Yes.
All right, I'll make it unanimous.
And Chair Doyle, Adina
Yes.
Flores has a hand raised.
Oh, I'm so sorry, and I did not call for public comment before we voted. Adina, please go. And you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Chair Doyle. I was actually seeking clarification because I didn't see that there was a public comment period for the annual report, and the agenda specified per agenda item. So I was just seeking clarification on that. Thank you.
Let's see. In my enthusiasm, did I miss that? I did. Then unless anybody objects on the commission, I'm going to reopen the annual report for public comment. Please, Ms. Flores.
Thank you, Chair Doyle. I just wanted to reiterate language that was within the annual report that stated foster racial equity, social justice, and inclusion for everyone. I greatly appreciate the commission voting in favor to approve the Roseland Library project because it was upsetting for me to hear Commissioner McKenzie, who's been on this commission for many, many years, and is fully aware that she had the opportunity to consult with council prior to voting on this action item.
Ms. Flores, this is not about the Roseland project. We're talking about the annual report, and we're talking about the report.
Yes, and within the annual report, again, we're talking about fostering racial equity, social justice, and inclusion for everyone, which was my opening remarks. So when we're making statements that we can't approve a joint powers authority agreement, but we can't move forward with that project under the JPA, and that's inaccurate. I'm not sure why that was said, other than you're straight up racist. Like, I don't know what to say, Commissioner McKenzie. That is disgusting. And again, my mother was the please stop being racist. This is a Brown Act violation. I'm not sure why I'm being muted, because you don't like the words I have to say, and you will be getting a cure and correct letter. It just proves my point that you were not equitable and you don't care about inclusion. There was no reason for that to be stated earlier when it wasn't verified with council, and council said go ahead. So please reflect on that, because what's the point of this annual report if you don't abide by any of it? Thank you.
Thank you. And I am reminded that, let's see, I should have asked for public comment on the consent calendar. Lisa, do we have any?
There are no public comments on the consent calendar, and you have already had a first and second and a roll call vote, correct?
Correct. So we will move on then to the discussion. And Jeffrey, I'm going to ask you the action items by the consent calendar. We can talk about these things. We don't have to put it on an additional a future agenda, do we?
No, I don't think so.
Well, I would like to make a motion to table the item.
Which,
Two items.
No, both of them.
Okay. So Commissioner Engbarth would like to table item 8.2 and 8.3.
I heard that. Okay, hearing no second, then we are.
Well, wait.
Sorry, we have a couple of
Yeah,
hands.
just friendly amendment. I asked for both of them to be pulled. I think the first one, I hope we can defer. The second one, I think it's a quick question. So if no one has any objection by asking, we wouldn't have to carry it forward.
Commissioner Cahill has.
I have a parliamentary inquiry.
Yes.
When you move to table, did you mean to kill or to postpone till the next meeting?
No, to table it, to put it forward
Defer.
to the next meeting.
So it's a postponement motion.
Yeah.
I would refer to it as a continuance, to continue the item to the next
Okay.
meeting.
Okay, continue. I move to continue the item.
I'll second that.
All right, we're going to have a vote on.
I guess I would like to understand the reasoning for wanting to continue this discussion at the next meeting.
I could provide a little bit. One, this is the first I've heard of it. This hasn't been presented to the lab for any discussion about the impact on the space in the library and what the community feels like on it. I haven't had the opportunity to hear anything from staff about how they feel about the loss of staff-based space. I don't know from what's been provided, whether or not the city's been consulted about modification of the space for this. This is totally new to me today. No input, no contact, no discussion, nothing. So I'm not going to vote on something I don't know anything about. But by next time I might, so I'll vote then.
Commissioner Cahill?
Yeah, I agree with Fred.
Well, wait. We're going to, we need to have since it's been moved and seconded, we have to decide whether we want to continue it.
Right.
Or whether we want to have the discussion today. So those who want to talk about it at a later meeting, this is, let's see, sort of backing up.
You have a motion to continue item 8.2
Right.
to
Motion to, thank-
the May meeting, and that would
And
be
there-
the motion we'd be
Great.
voting
And there's no public comment? Any public comment?
Commissioner Goldberg has a comment.
Oh.
Commissioner Doyle, by putting it that way, there's only one problem. Erica just asked what some of the problems were and why people weren't able to just keep it on the cassette calendar. And to give her those answers now and to talk a teeny bit about why people are not ready to just okay it at this point will help for a discussion next month. Otherwise, we're just starting from scratch all over again with no communication, and here we are next month in the same place.
No, I understand that. It's just that there's been according to parliamentary procedure, since there's been a motion and a second, we have to vote on that before we have further discussions, I think.
No, I think you can allow for discussion. The better practice is to have discussion before somebody makes a motion. But having had a motion made and seconded without any conversation among the commission, I think it's not a violation of parliamentary procedures to allow for the commission members to discuss before they vote.
Okay, then go for it, Commissioner Greenberg. Did I say Greenberg? I meant Goldberg. Sorry. Late here. It's 11:49.
Director Tebow, I'll tell you why I wasn't ready to just go with the consent. I've heard a lot about there being space issues in Sebastopol, and I want to know how this is going to affect it. I wanted to know who decided to do the sorting machine there and whether there was input from the branch manager and other staff that was there. Mr. Engbarth mentioned lab and other people did. I could see potential problems. And then when I read this thing that we got this, from I don't know who that was, that brought in other things. And I think it's something to really look into and not just jump in. It may not be a good idea.
Any other comments? Oh, Commissioner Pauls?
The only other question I would ask of you, Erica, is if we do not discuss this till next month, is there any cost from a staff point of view for that?
It just pushes it into next fiscal year.
Okay, so there is that.
I'm sorry, was somebody off a microphone? I didn't
Oh,
hear.
yes, Mike Daw said that it just pushes it into next fiscal year.
Okay. Any other comments?
Well, I mean, I guess our staff is able to answer questions now, if that will help inform your discussions, or if you'd rather just wait until next month.
Motions to continue.
So if the people who would like to hear from the staff tonight, the motion is for a continuance. So if you want to hear from the staff tonight, then vote no on the continuance. Is that right? Or then we move again on a continuance after we've heard from the staff. If you just want to put it on the next agenda, then vote yes. So Commissioner Cahill.
Yes.
Commissioner Engbarth.
Yes.
Commissioner Goldberg.
Yes.
Mr. Green.
Yes.
Commissioner Heavenridge.
Yes.
Commissioner Lagos.
No.
Commissioner McKenzie.
Yes.
Mr. Polls.
Yes.
All right, then that's a majority. So we will postpone this until the next agenda item without hearing from staff.
And Chair Doyle, what was your vote?
Mine was a yes. Okay, then the next item, and I'm sorry, I'm looking on my very small phone at the agenda.
8.3.
One that we pulled.
Yes, 8.3, the status update on vacancies.
Oh, that's right.
Okay, Suzanne.
So was there a simple question?
Yes.
See?
Commissioner McKenzie has a question.
Yes, my question was, in the staff report, it says under this new bill, that at least once a year, the agency's governing board must hold a public hearing and so my concern was, we're doing this report, is this the public hearing? And if it is the public hearing, it can't be on the consent calendar. Can it?
That's a Jeff question.
Yeah.
I think that's a fair question.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of semantics as to whether or not it's listed as a consent item or an action item. I think taking it off of consent and allowing public comment on it and commission comment is appropriate. I think going forward, my suggestion will be that we don't put it as a consent item, because the statute does refer to public hearing, even though there is no particular, as I recall anyway, no particular notice required other than the typical Brown Act notice.
Can I add one comment? That I did check with our council that I'm working with, and we did in fact make sure that we contacted our union and gave them an opportunity to let them know that they could be present and present in person or provide comment if they had any concerns regarding the information that we were presenting, if they couldn't be present. And they said that they didn't have a problem with any of the information. So so we did do our due diligence, but you duly noted, and next year we will make sure that we put it on an action item by motion.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Now, do we have to continue that one, or can we have a conversation about it right now?
You can.
All right, then let's do it.
Okay.
What do we do? Move it?
Are we ready for a motion or do we have a report?
Public comment.
Public comment.
Public comment.
There are no members of the public that wish to comment.
All right, then commission comments. Commissioner questions.
I'd like to move the adoption of 8.3. That's the correct word.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Commissioner Cahill,
Yes.
Commissioner Engbarth,
Yes.
Commissioner Goldberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Green,
Yes.
Commissioner Heavenridge,
Yes.
Legos,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Opposed,
Yes.
and I'll make it unanimous. Okay. Then we are moving from the consent calendar to the budget adjustment. Action items by motion 9.1.
Okay, what you see before you is an invoice from the County of Sonoma for election-related expenses. The library is, as a joint powers authority, when they voted to place this measure on the ballot, it was considered a special tax. And because it was for specific purposes, i.e. maintaining and enhancing library services. As a special tax, Sonoma County Library is responsible for paying costs associated with the election, including labor, printing of ballots and postage, among other costs. So we did ask the registrar of voters in early fall what an estimate would be for this. And we were told that the cost would not be known until after the election because it is based upon the total number of registered voters countywide. For reference, our cost in 2016 for Measure Y was $252,000. This is considerably more expensive. You will also notice there is a detailed explanation of the charges that includes all of the ballot measures. And because ours was a countywide measure, it costs more than some of the city and local measures because it is based upon the total number of ballots. And so that is that is the reasoning for the expense. And we also have in the packet included a resolution to propose to pay for it. This includes, funding through $552,000 in property tax funds and $48,000 in sales tax funds to pay for this. Do you have any questions?
Any public comment before the commission conversations?
No public comment?
No public comment.
All right.
Oh, wait, is there somebody who wants to, yes, somebody virtually wants to comment.
Okay, 3 minutes.
Good evening, commissioners. I had some questions about the tax measures that the commission endorsed. I did see you were in favor on the ballot, and that's great and wonderful. But again, as it was expressed previously by Commissioner McKenzie, she was under the impression that that tax that you supported will not go towards new construction of libraries. So was that communicated clearly when this tax was being put on the ballot to the constituents within the Roseland area, the intentions of the measure? Because the bulk of this community does not actually read the language. I wrote opposing arguments in this last federal election myself. And so being that, you know, our English speakers in the community have no idea what's going on, I could assure you our Spanish speakers are absolutely clueless. So when we're putting these things through our local government and our taxpayers are carrying that burden. Again, I ask, as the Library Commission, this goes back to educating our community. And right now, I'm kind of a one-woman show as far as genuinely providing education on local governance. So I would very much appreciate your support. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you. Commission comments.
I don't see any commissioner comments, Chair Doyle.
All right. Do I have a motion?
I so move. Second.
All right. Commissioner Cahill.
Yes.
Discussion.
I asked for discussion. Okay.
You go move second discussion.
Okay.
Do
What?
Do I hear any discussion?
Did you have a comment, Barbara?
I was only going to say that the amount that the county charged themselves for the countywide measure is right in the same ballpark as what the county's charging us for our countywide measure. So it seems as though the cost is proportionate. It's very high. It's kind of depressing, but it is, it looks equitable from that standpoint. And I do want to encourage the county to have the correct library director's name on the record for our library directors.
Any other comments?
No other comments.
All right. Commissioner Cahill.
Yes.
Commissioner Ingbarth.
Yes.
Commissioner Goldberg.
Yes.
Commissioner Green.
Yes.
Mr. Heavenridge.
Yes.
Commissioner Legos.
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie.
Yes.
Mr. Pauls.
Yes.
All right. I will make it unanimous. Thank you, Erica. I know it's expensive, but it was worth it. Oh dear, let's see. Sorry, I'm fighting with my,
We're on 9.3, the letter to legislators regarding the IMLS.
yes.
Now we read. I'm gonna move to pass this. Okay? I mean to accept the letter.
Second.
Any questions, any discussion,
Any public comment?
any public comment?
No public comment.
Okay. And no commission comments?
No.
Okay. Commissioner Cahill.
Yes.
Commissioner Ingbarth.
Yes.
Commissioner Goldberg.
Yes.
Commissioner Green.
Yes.
Commissioner Heavenridge.
Yes.
Commissioner Legos.
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie.
Yes.
Commissioner Pauls.
Yes.
And I will make it unanimous. I will also say that things are grim here in Washington, and they've laid off staff from the IMLS. And we are trying to persuade Congress that some of the piece that the administrative offices shouldn't be able to do that. The executive offices rather should not be able to do that because Congress passed a law that said this is what the Institute of Museum and Library Services does. But it is looking as if they are going to be able to take much of it apart. So I can probably report on that to you when I get home. All right.
While you're at it, are you trying to convince Congress that they actually are a branch of government?
I see backbones, actually. Okay, 10. There's nothing on our discussion items, so we will move to commission and liaison reports. I have nothing to add to my chair report. Any questions about that?
No questions.
Does any public comment? I don't think so. Do we have any additions to any commissioner reports?
No.
Okay. Commissioner McKenzie, would you have anything to add to the Finance Committee report?
I think it's quite complete from our CFO. Thank you.
Great. Any additions to the Historic Records Commission report?
No.
I have nothing to add to the Foundation Liaison report either. All right. So old and new business, Commissioner McKenzie and Commissioner Engbarth, I believe you wanted to talk between yourselves to talk about how we choose our legal representation, or whether there should be an evaluation. Perhaps we can hear from about that sometime soon.
We're working on it.
Great. I don't think you have your.
We have enough to make a report, at least an initial report.
All right, that's great. Do we have anything else for future meetings?
But I'd like to, we've put it on the last agenda, but the communications issue with commissioners. I think we do need to spend some time talking about it. Just pointing at one example on the sorter, I absolutely had no information shared with me, solicited, anything. And I think that's inappropriate.
Communication, absolutely. I would suggest, however, that that a lot of these things, this is in particular is an operations issue, and
Yeah, it does. I think the point is, it doesn't matter to us. Commission has an oversight responsibility and duty. That means operations need to provide us the information to do the oversight, to be aware of what's going on, to be able to share the information among ourselves and among the community. And we're not getting it, or at least I'm not getting it. I don't know the other commissioners.
we'll certainly talk about communication. Anything else for future agendas?
Commissioner Pauls?
We should put 8.2 and 8.3 back on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
8.2.
You're right. I apologize, just 8.2.
No. No worries. Anything else? All right, then if I see no hands waving, I'm going to adjourn this then. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Chair Doyle.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Thanks, Jeff.